Yo, what's good, guys? It's Austin here, or Luna. So today I've got a pretty wild story time for you. One of those times where you look back and go, wow, that really happened. Definitely one of the craziest, so I hope you enjoy it. If you do, leave a like on the video and let's get into it. Alright, so today's story time takes place back in 2018. I had just moved back to New York after living in LA for almost 2 years. I just got my own place and I was settling in, enjoying the single life. No serious relationships, just hanging out, catching up with old friends, and living life. About a month into living back in New York, some friends invited me out to a club. Now, if you know me, you'll know that clubs aren't exactly my favorite place to be, but I hadn't seen my friends in a long time, so I figured, why not? Let's do it. So I went out with them, and surprisingly, that night turned out to be more eventful than I'd expected. I ended up meeting a girl at the club, and she was pretty cool. We exchanged numbers, and over the next few weeks, we started talking a lot. We were hanging out, going on dates, and eventually, things progressed to a point where we were basically a couple. We hadn't officially said we were boyfriend and girlfriend yet, but you know how it is. We were spending the night at each other's places, meeting each other's parents, the whole deal. So eventually, I decided to make it official and just ask her, hey, can we call this what it is? Are we boyfriend and girlfriend? And she was all for it. She even said she'd been waiting for me to ask. So, boom, we were officially a couple. Things were really good for a while. It was one of those rare times when everything seems to be going right. And then, after a couple of months, she brought up the idea of me meeting her dad. Now, I'd already met her mom and her stepdad, the people she grew up with. But her dad was different. She didn't have a close relationship with him growing up, and they'd only reconnected a few years before we started dating. But as she got closer to him, she wanted him to know who her boyfriend was, so she asked me if I'd be up for meeting him. I was like, yeah, sure, why not? And she told me we were going to have dinner with him that Friday, but then she said, I need to warn you, he's got some issues. And I was like, okay, what kind of issues? She then told me that he had been in and out of jail before, had trouble with the law, and had done some pretty shady stuff back in the day. I won't lie, it made me a little nervous, but I figured, whatever. I wasn't going to judge someone based on their past, so I told her, it's all good, let's do it. Fast forward to Friday night, we go to meet her dad for dinner, and honestly, it went way better than I expected. The dude was actually really cool. He was funny, had great stories, and seemed like a reformed guy who had put his troubled past behind him. By the end of the night, we'd even exchanged numbers, and he told me to take good care of his daughter. It felt like a solid, positive interaction. And then, a week later, things took a turn I did not expect. So, one day, I'm just chilling at home, and I get a text from her dad. It just says, hey. I thought, alright, maybe he's just checking in or something. So I reply, what's up, man? And he goes, I got a question for you. I say, sure, what's up? And then he sends me a message I would never have imagined getting from my girlfriend's father. He texts me, want to buy some? And he put the pill emoji. I'm sitting there like, wait, what? This has got to be a joke, right? He's testing me or something. So I didn't know what to say, and I ended up just replying with LOL because I thought that was a safe response. I figured he was joking and this was some kind of weird test, but no. He replies again with, what do you do? I realized at that moment he wasn't joking. He was asking me what kind of drugs I was into, if any. So I replied, nothing LOL. Then, and this is when it got even weirder, he calls me. I answer the phone and I'm like, hey, what's up? And he goes, did you get my text? I said, yeah, I replied. He says, yeah, so what do you do? At this point, I'm still thinking there's a chance he's just messing with me. So I asked, wait, you're serious right now? And he goes, yeah, man, I got stuff. What do you like? I was dumbfounded. I couldn't believe that my girlfriend's dad was offering to sell me drugs. I said, do you realize how messed up this is? You are my girlfriend's father and you're trying to sell me drugs. Don't you think it's pretty bad if your daughter's boyfriend was doing that kind of stuff? And he kind of brushed it off saying, it doesn't have to be anything serious. I've got weed, I've got shrooms. I was like, yeah, no thanks, not interested. He just said, okay, well, let me know. And hung up. So now I'm sitting there with this bombshell of a situation. I could either ignore it and move on like it never happened, or I could tell my girlfriend, and I decided that telling her was the right move because she deserved to know, especially since she had warned me about him having issues. So I texted her, told her what had happened, and to my surprise, she was totally understanding about it. She said, he's embarrassing, just ignore him. The way she responded made me think this wasn't the first time he'd done something like this, so I asked her, has he done stuff like this before? And she said, yeah, actually, with my ex. I introduced them, and within a week, he was trying to get him to do shrooms with him. I was like, wow, okay. So apparently this was just a normal thing for him, but it still felt different in my case because of the pill emoji he had sent. I asked her, Does he sell dangerous stuff? And she replied, literally everything you could think of. That blew my mind. I realized that I could have asked for the most dangerous drug imaginable and he might have had it, ready to sell it to me. That day, I learned a valuable lesson. She wasn't exaggerating when she said her dad had problems. It was definitely a first for me to meet a girlfriend's parent and have them offer me hard drugs. After that incident, me and my girlfriend decided to keep our distance from him for the rest of our relationship. Unfortunately, a few months later, me and her broke up. It wasn't anything too dramatic, definitely not story-worthy, just some petty relationship stuff. I haven't seen or heard from her dad since then. Hopefully he's gotten his life together a bit and is doing better, but honestly, who knows? Anyway, that's pretty much it for today's story. Moral of the story, stay away from drugs, and if someone close to you, like a significant other's family member, tries to get you into that stuff, just say no. I hope you guys enjoyed this story time. If you did, please leave a like on the video, I'd really appreciate it. Feel free to leave your story times in the comments down below and subscribe if you're new. I'll see you all later. Peace. What's good guys, Austin here, or Luna, and today's story is probably one of my favorite stories of all time. It's got everything, it's crazy, it's funny, it's got a little bit of suspense, just a whole lot going on. I hope you enjoy it. Leave a like on the video if you do, and let's get into it. So, I've talked about it a million times on this channel. How back in the day, when I was a teenager, I loved exploring abandoned buildings. You know, I've told you guys about the times I went into abandoned hospitals, old psychiatric wards, schools, and all kinds of places, just to explore, take pictures, and make some memories. And some of those are still my favorite memories to this day. But obviously, there's a huge risk with exploring abandoned places. You could inhale asbestos or other toxins, run into some homeless folks that might be dangerous, or end up walking on a floor with weak structural integrity and fall through. There's a lot that could go wrong. So if you're watching this and thinking, that sounds cool, I want to do that, please don't. Learn from my mistakes, alright? Because today's story is one of the craziest experiences I've had while exploring an abandoned place. So this story takes place when I was 18 years old. It was the month right after my 18th birthday and I was hanging out in my hometown in New York. I was with 4 friends and we had absolutely nothing to do. We were just driving around the city, bored out of our minds, listening to music and trying to think of something to do. Then my friend John speaks up and says, "Yo, you guys want to explore an abandoned spot?" We were all intrigued but also a bit unsure. It had been a while since we last explored an abandoned place. My friend John continued, "There's this abandoned mansion that's been untouched for like 15 years and it still looks really good. I want to check it out." One of our friends was super down, but me and another friend were kind of hesitant. We were all 18 now, and getting caught could mean getting arrested. But after about 20 minutes of having absolutely nothing to do, me and the other friend who were hesitant said, "You know what? Fuck it, let's do it." So, we drove about 30 minutes outside of town to this abandoned mansion. And when we got there, John wasn't kidding. For being abandoned for 15 years, the place looked really well kept. It was a legit mansion, and from the outside, it didn't even look abandoned. It looked like the people were just away on vacation. I remember turning to John and asking, "Are you sure this place is abandoned? It really doesn't look like it." John nodded and pulled out his phone. He showed me this website that was basically a database for abandoned places in our area. He pulled up the listing for this mansion and it had a whole backstory. Apparently the family that used to live there couldn't pay the mortgage and the house got foreclosed. It ended up being owned by the government and had just been sitting there vacant ever since. So, we were convinced. We parked right in the driveway, which, in hindsight, was really stupid because it was a dead giveaway that someone was there. But it ended up being a lifesaver, and you'll see why in a minute. Anyway, we parked in the driveway, walked up to the front porch, and of course, the front door was locked. So we looped around to the back of the house and the sliding glass door was completely gone. There was just an open space that led to the back of the house, so we just walked right in. Once we got inside, the back of the house definitely looked more run down and abandoned than the front. It was a lot more rotted and worn out. That was when I thought, okay, this place is definitely abandoned. The whole downstairs was kind of fucked. There was mold everywhere, everything was damp and it smelled awful. Clearly, with no door to protect it, the weather had completely destroyed that part of the house over the years. We explored the downstairs for a bit, but nothing too out of the ordinary. Then we decided to go upstairs. I led the way, and as I got about halfway up the stairs, I suddenly heard someone yell, "Hey!" from the top of the stairs. I stopped immediately, turned to my friends, and they all just froze behind me. I whispered, "What the fuck do I do? Do I respond?" John whispered back, "Let's just leave. Let's get the fuck out of here." But then, before we could do anything, the voice yelled again, "Hey, who's in here?" At that point, I was like, yo, is this place even abandoned? Does someone actually live here? John was just as confused. He said, "I don't know, dude. Let's just leave." We turned around and started booking it down the stairs to get out of the house, and as we were running for the back door, I heard someone come barreling down the stairs behind us, full speed. I turned around just for a split second and saw this dude, almost completely naked, wearing only his underwear and a beanie. He had long grey hair, a big grey beard, and he looked like he was in his 50s or 60s, and in his hands was a shotgun. I yelled, "Run! Run! Run!" And all of us ran as fast as we could out of the back door, not even looking back. We ran straight for the car, and thank God we had parked in the driveway, because if we had parked anywhere else, we probably wouldn't have made it. We jumped in the car, and my friend started it up, put it in reverse, and we started to back out. As we were reversing, the guy came around the side of the house. He looked at us with his shotgun, aimed it up in the air, and yelled, "Yeah, don't come back." Then he fired a shot into the air. My friend John screamed, and we peeled out of that driveway so fast. The entire drive home, we barely said a word to each other. We were all just in shock, the adrenaline still pumping. When we finally got back home, we started to decompress, and I looked over at John and said, "Yo, get on that website right now and write a comment telling people not to go to that house. If someone else goes there, they might actually get hurt, or worse." John agreed. He went on the site and wrote this big comment about what happened. It got a bunch of upvotes and replies, with other people saying things like, "Yeah, I went there a few months ago, and the same crazy guy chased us out. He's armed and dangerous. Don't go there." Apparently people knew about this guy, which was kind of annoying because no one had left a warning before we went. If I had known there was a dude with a shotgun living there, I wouldn't have gone near the place. But in the end, we were safe, and as far as I know, nobody got shot or seriously hurt there. After we wrote that comment, it became kind of well known in the local exploring community that you just don't go near that place. And 6 years later, the house got knocked down. I remember driving by with my friends on our way to a store, and we decided to pass by the mansion. When we got there, it was just an empty plot of land. They had completely knocked it down. I don't know where that guy is today. Hopefully he found a job, got his own place, and isn't living in some abandoned building with a shotgun in his underwear anymore. But yeah guys, the moral of the story is, stay away from abandoned, creepy places. As fun as it might seem to explore, you could end up running into some seriously dangerous shit. So be safe, alright? Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the story time. If you did, please leave a like on the video. I'd really appreciate it. Feel free to leave your story times in the comments below, and if you're new here, subscribe. I'll see you guys later. Peace. Yo, what's good guys? It's Austin here, or Luna. Today's story time is a ridiculous one. Honestly, there's no better way to describe it. So, grab some popcorn, kick back, and let me tell you all about that one time I got my ass beat by a girl. Yep, it happened. I know, it's one of those things you'd think only happens in movies or as an old school playground insult. But this actually happened, and it's a hell of a story. Leave a like on the video if you enjoy it, and let's get into it. This story takes place when I was 21 years old, literally a week after my 21st birthday. So you already know what that means. I had just gotten through partying for a week straight, celebrating being legally allowed to drink, and I thought I was living my best life. Things were going pretty well. I had made some new friends around my city, I was hanging out with them a lot, and I was just generally having a good time. So, a week after my 21st birthday, I got invited to go out to a club with a few friends of mine. I was like, hell yeah, why not? So I went out with 4 of my friends. We get to this club and we start having a good time, just vibing. We ended up meeting a few people at the club, specifically 3 girls and a couple of guys who were friends with the girls. They weren't dating or anything, just friends. We all hit it off, getting along really well, so we made the spontaneous decision to leave the loud club and continue the party at my buddy Jacob's house. Now, let me just say, Jacob had a nice house. His parents were on a month-long trip to Italy or something, so we pretty much had the whole place to ourselves. Indoor hot tub, home movie theater, you name it, this dude had it. So, we all head over there, including these 3 girls, their friends, and even more people we invited over who didn't like the club scene. Altogether, there were probably about 15 of us, so it wasn't a massive party, but it was a solid gathering, you know? Enough people to make it fun. We started off by chilling in the hot tub. I was just getting to know one of these girls. Nothing serious, not trying to hook up or anything, just chatting. And then, out of nowhere, my friend Jacob comes over with a shot in his hand. He goes, "Here, take this." And I'm like, "Yo, what is it?" It smelled like tequila, and let me be real with you guys, I don't drink much. If you've watched my channel for a while, you probably know that. Drinking's just not my thing. But there I was, freshly 21, in a hot tub with people chanting my name and my friends pressuring me. "Come on, Austin, take the shot." So I said, screw it. I took the shot. And honestly, it went down like fire, but I did it. And then Jacob, being the wonderful friend that he is, comes back with another shot. This time, he has two. One for me, one for him. He's like, I didn't get to take it with you the first time, and at that point I was feeling it, but I still said, alright man, fine, bottoms up. Now, call me a lightweight if you want, I don't care, but 2 shots of tequila already had me feeling some type of way. And when I start feeling good, I tend to keep the vibe going, which led to me saying, you know what, screw it, hand me a White Claw. And from there, well, things went downhill quickly because I don't remember anything else from that night. I remember getting the White Claw, but after that, completely blank. Fast forward to the next morning. I wake up in Jacob's guest room and the first thing I feel is the pounding headache, like my head was splitting open. I looked like a complete mess, and I definitely felt like one too. My stomach wasn't doing me any favors either. I was throwing up, feeling like death itself, and I'm sitting there trying to remember anything from the night before. All I can recall is being in the hot tub with my friends and those random girls, and then nothing. So, I get up and make my way downstairs to find Jacob. I find Jacob sitting in the kitchen, and I walk up to him and ask, yo, what happened last night? I can't remember a thing. He looks at me with this expression that immediately makes me nervous. He's like, dude, I don't think you want to know. I'm like, what do you mean? And I notice he keeps glancing at the left side of my face. I'm like, bro, what's wrong? And he goes, have you looked in the mirror yet? I said no, so he grabs my arm and leads me to the bathroom. He flips the light on, and oh my god, the sight that greeted me was terrifying. I had a full-on black eye. The entire left side of my face was bruised and swollen, and my lip was busted. I'm standing there in complete shock, and I turn to Jacob and ask, what the hell did I do last night? He goes, bro, a girl did that to you. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, dude, you got your ass beat by a girl. At this point, I'm just baffled, so I'm like, alright, back up, start from the beginning, tell me everything. He's like, alright, so after we got out of the hot tub, you had a couple of White Claws and you were feeling it. You started dancing around on the table and yelling. You were being obnoxious, and we tried to put you to bed twice, but each time you got back up and kept coming back downstairs, acting crazy. I'm sitting there listening and I'm already embarrassed, but then he continues. So at one point, this girl got mad because she thought you were disrespecting her friend. You put your arm around him and whispered something in his ear, and he made this weird face, so she thought you were bothering him. She tried to get you off of him, but you weren't moving, so she just started swinging on you. And bro, you just stood there and took it. You didn't even fight back. We jumped in and stopped her, but she got a few good hits in, obviously. I'm just standing there stunned. I'm like, what did I even say to her friend that made her freak out like that? Jacob's like, dude, I don't think you want to know. I insisted, no, I want to know. What did I say? And he goes, after we got you upstairs and away from her, we asked the guy what you whispered to him, and I swear to God, he said you whispered, my name's Jeff. I just stared at Jacob, trying to process what he was saying. I was like, are you messing with me right now? He's like, no dude, you said, my name's Jeff, like from 21 Jump Street, and I guess the guy made a funny face, and the girl thought you were bothering him, so she started swinging. At this point, I thought they had to be trolling me. I'm like, do you have their numbers? I need to call them and hear this for myself. He's like, yeah, we got everyone's Instagrams, so he sends me their profiles. I follow the guy and the girl, and they both follow me back pretty quickly. I DM them and ask for their numbers, and then I FaceTime the girl first. She answers, and the moment she sees my face, she immediately starts apologizing. She's like, oh my god, I'm so sorry, you look terrible. I'm like, yeah, I feel pretty terrible too. She's like, I'm so sorry, I was so drunk, and I thought you were bothering my friend. I would have never done that if I wasn't so drunk. I'm like, it's all good, I'm not mad. I just wanted to confirm, did I really whisper my name's Jeff in his ear? She goes, honestly, I don't know what you whispered. I just thought you were bothering him, and I was drunk and angry. We both kind of laughed it off, and I told her it was all good. Water under the bridge. Then I FaceTimed the guy, the one I apparently whispered to. He answers, and he's also like, damn man, you look rough. I'm really sorry she did that. I tried to stop her. I'm like, it's fine dude. I just need to know. Did I actually say, my name's Jeff? He's like, honestly, I don't really know what you said. It kind of sounded like that, so that's what I told him, but I don't know for sure. So, there you have it. I got punched in the face over some mystery sentence that may or may not have been, my name's Jeff. To this day, I don't know what I actually said, but apparently it sounded enough like my name's Jeff to get me beat up. The funny thing is, I actually stayed in touch with that guy, and we're still friends to this day. It's always funny to tell people how we met because I get to say, yeah, I whispered my name's Jeff in his ear, and then his friend beat me up. Definitely one of the more interesting ways to meet someone. Anyway, moral of the story, don't drink too much. Seriously, it's not worth it. I hope you guys enjoyed this story time. If you did, please leave a like on the video. I'd really appreciate it. Feel free to leave your own story times in the comments below and subscribe if you're new. I'll see you all later. Peace. Yo, what's good guys? It's Austin here, or Luna. So, today's story time is definitely one of those ones where you just look back and think, damn, I was not ready for that. And honestly, it's pretty serious, as you can probably tell from the title. This is the story of how I lost $220,000 to a hacker. Yeah, wild, right? I hope you enjoy it though. Leave a like on the video if you do, and let's get into it. So, today's story takes place about 2 years ago. Not that long ago, actually. Now, I've had my fair share of issues with hackers before. You know, stuff like them sending random packages to my house, trying to hack my accounts, or even ordering weird pizzas to my door. But this one, man, this one was on a whole new level. A level I wasn't even remotely prepared for. It all started off like a regular day. I was in my apartment, just chilling in my little office room, scrolling through Twitter. I had just finished working on a video, and YouTube was on my other monitor, you know, just kicking back, enjoying myself. And then, out of nowhere, I get a call from my homie, Jared. I answer, and he's like, yo, you wanna grab some food? I'm down the street. I was like, yeah, I bet. So I grab my stuff, head out, and Jared picks me up. We drive down to this local burger spot. It wasn't anything fancy, just a nice chill place that served burgers and barbecue stuff. We walk in, and I step up to the counter to order. I order a burger and the cashier tells me it's like $23 or something. So I pull out my debit card, give it to him, and declined. Weird, right? I mean, it's not like I was broke. At least I thought I wasn't. I tell the cashier, run it again, and nope, it declines again. At this point, I'm thinking maybe my bank froze my account. You know, sometimes they flag stuff as fraud and then they just freeze everything. So I tell Jared, yo, give me a second. And I step off to the side to call my bank. I'm on hold for like 5 minutes while Jared's over there just chilling, probably wondering what's taking so long. Finally, someone from the bank picks up and I'm like, hey, I'm trying to make a purchase and my card keeps getting declined. Can you check if my account's frozen or something? The guy on the phone, he was actually pretty nice, asks for my card number and some basic details. I give it to him and after a minute he goes, sir, your account is overdrafted. I'm like, overdrafted? What do you mean? How much? He's like, yeah, it's currently negative $1,000. Bruh, at that moment my heart sank. I was like, nah, that can't be right. Now, I don't usually talk about money on here because who really cares, right? But, just to give you some context, I had a little over 20 grand in that account. It wasn't all my money, but it was my main checking account. You know, the one I used for all my everyday stuff. So, I'm just sitting there like, bro, where did my money go? The guy on the phone was like, let me transfer you to the fraud department. So I'm sitting there, waiting, and I'm getting more and more anxious. Finally, someone from fraud gets on the line and I'm like, yo, my account is missing 20 grand. I didn't make those transactions. What the hell's going on? He's like, let me take a look. He starts listing off all these transactions and I'm telling you, I didn't recognize any of them. There was like 2 grand spent on some tech website, another 1,000 on jewelry, a few thousand on furniture. I'm just thinking, whoever this is, they're out here furnishing their entire apartment with my money. I'm getting more and more worked up as the guy's reading off these transactions, and he's like, okay, it looks like we can still cancel a lot of these because they're pending. Apparently the hacker was quick, but not quick enough because a bunch of the orders hadn't even shipped yet. So the fraud guy's like, we're gonna try and cancel as many of these as we can. Keep in mind, I'm still standing in this burger joint, on the phone with my bank, and Jared's over at the table, probably wondering if I'm okay. I tell him, yo, can you just pay for my burger? I'll pay you back later. He's like, yeah, I got you. So, he grabs the food, and I'm still on the phone trying to sort this out. It took about 30 minutes, but the fraud team managed to cancel most of the transactions. Out of the 20 grand that got stolen, they got about 18 or 19k of it refunded. There was still about $1 grand they were working on, but they said they'd update me within 24 hours. At this point, I'm just relieved that they got most of it back, but I'm also pissed. Like, how did this even happen? The guy on the phone explains that there was an unauthorized login from some random city, and that's how they got my info. They had my debit card number, my online banking login. Basically, they had everything. So they ended up freezing all my accounts, canceling my cards, and telling me they'd send me new ones in a few days. For the next few days, I had no access to my money. I had to borrow from friends and pay them back through PayPal. It was honestly a nightmare, but at least the bank was handling it. The next day, I got another call from the bank and they told me they managed to cancel the last grand in fraudulent transactions. So I got all my money back, which was honestly the biggest relief ever. It felt like a huge middle finger to whoever tried to steal from me. But, real talk, I was so lucky that Jared wanted to grab food that day. If he hadn't called me, I probably wouldn't have found out until it was too late, and all those transactions would have gone through. So, yeah, moral of the story, don't be like me, don't keep a bunch of money in your checking account, and definitely don't use your card on sketchy websites. Change your passwords frequently and be careful out there. As for the hacker, the bank tried to track them down, but they didn't have much luck. Whoever it was, they knew what they were doing. But at least I got my money back, and they didn't get to keep any of the stuff they tried to buy. Anyway, that's pretty much the end of the story. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please leave a like, I'd really appreciate it. Feel free to leave your story times in the comments below and subscribe if you're new. I'll see you all later. Peace. Yo, what's good guys? It's Austin here, or Luna. So, today's story is a bit of an interesting one. A little bit embarrassing, but thankfully not for me. It's definitely one of those stories where I'm not the main character getting embarrassed, but I still witnessed it and I was involved to some degree. So I figured I'd tell you about it today. I hope you enjoy it. Leave a like on the video if you do, and let's jump into it. So, today's story takes place back in 10th grade. Yeah, high school, back when I was just a sophomore trying to survive each day like everybody else. It starts off like any other 10th grade morning. I woke up like 5 minutes before the bus was about to arrive at my house, which sucked. Whenever I woke up that late, I just felt horrible for about a million reasons. 1, I was tired as hell because I clearly hadn't slept enough. 2, I didn't get to shower because I woke up so late, so I had to throw water in my hair, splash my face, throw on some deodorant, and pray I didn't smell too bad. Not ideal. And then I had to rush out and ride the bus feeling half dead, which let me tell you is never a great way to start your day. Anyway, I got ready as fast as I could, ran out the door just as the bus was pulling up, and made it just in time. I got on the bus, threw my headphones on, and just zoned out for the 30-minute ride to school. I was sitting in the back, half asleep, just listening to music, and honestly in a pretty bad mood. But honestly, I had no right to be in a bad mood because little did I know I was about to witness something that would put my little problems into perspective real quick. Fast forward about an hour later, I'm in my first period class, which was English. I was still half asleep, just trying to stay awake and get through the class when I heard my teacher say, "Okay everyone, get ready to present." And I just froze. I looked up in panic because I hated presenting. Speaking in front of the entire class was literally one of my worst fears. So when I heard her say that, I was like, "Wait, what? Present what?" I leaned over to my friend who was sitting next to me and whispered, "Yo, what are we presenting? Did I miss something?" And he just looked at me like I was an idiot and said, "Bro, our project, the one we've been working on all week. Have you not been paying attention?" I was like, nope." And he shook his head and said, "Yeah, clearly, bro, we gotta present. You don't have yours done?" I was like, "Dude, I haven't even started. What's it even about?" So, he told me what the project was, and I tried to throw something together as fast as I possibly could. Just something. Anything, because I had nothing. And looking back, I can't even remember what the project was about. That just shows you how much I was paying attention, or not paying attention really. So I wrote down this last minute mess of a presentation. It was all wrong, completely awful, but I had to do something. And right then, my teacher called up the first student to present. It was this girl and she did a great job. The kind of presentation you just know got an A. So I took some notes on what she said to help make my garbage presentation a tiny bit better. Then, my teacher called me up. I was literally second, just my luck. I had to follow up this amazing presentation with my last minute nonsense. So, I got up there, presented my half-baked project, and yeah, it was terrible. I could see it on my teacher's face. She looked at me like she was disgusted. The whole class was looking at me like I was clueless, which I was to be fair. I finished up and my friend gave me a little nod as I walked back to my seat like, "Hey, that was trash, but for throwing it together in 5 minutes, not bad." I took my seat, thankful it was over, and figured the worst of it was behind me. Then, my teacher called up this girl. Let's call her Sarah. Now, Sarah was always really quiet, one of those students that you knew existed but didn't know much about because she kept to herself. I respected it. Some people just don't want to talk much, and that's totally fine. So, Sarah walks up to the front and she looked absolutely terrified. Like, I felt for her. She was visibly shaking, and her voice was super shaky too when she started presenting. I knew exactly how she felt because, trust me, presenting in front of a bunch of people when you're scared of public speaking is no joke. Before she even started, I saw her walk over to the teacher and whisper something in her ear. My guess is she was asking if she could just skip it or do it later, but the teacher shook her head no. So Sarah went to the front of the room and started presenting, looking really nervous, and I was just sitting there hoping she would get through it okay. But then, I noticed something weird. Her pants were starting to change color, and at first I didn't get it. I was like, why are her pants getting darker? And then it hit me. She was peeing herself. right there in front of everyone out of pure nervousness. My heart sank for her because I couldn't imagine being that scared, and honestly, I felt terrible for her. But, of course, there's always that one person in every class who has to make everything worse, and this one guy yelled out, "Yo, she peed her pants!" A couple of kids started laughing, real immature stuff, but thankfully, most of the class just went quiet. They could tell this wasn't funny, it was just sad. Sarah immediately turned bright red, dropped whatever she was holding, and ran out of the classroom. And then, to make it even worse, my teacher just put her head down and made this really disgusted face. Like, seriously? I was already mad at the kids who laughed, but seeing the teacher's reaction made me even angrier. So, I said something. I was like, "Excuse me, why are you making that face?" And my teacher looked up at me and snapped, "Why don't you mind your business, Austin?" And I was like, "Are you going to go talk to her? She just ran out of here and she's probably humiliated. You should go talk to her." And she just said, "How about you let me do my job and I'll let you do yours?" And I was like, "Whatever, I'm going to go talk to her." The teacher then said, "If you walk out of this classroom, I'm giving you detention." And I just shrugged and said, "Okay, I'm going to go talk to her anyway and I'm not going to come to your detention. Have fun with that." So, I walked out. I remember one of my friends fist bumping me as I walked out like, "Hell yeah, Austin, good move." I walked out into the hallway and waited. I knew Sarah would probably be coming back once she got cleaned up or went to the nurse. After about 10 minutes, I saw her coming back. She had changed clothes, looked like gym clothes, probably from her locker. She looked embarrassed as hell and I just felt terrible for her. As she walked up, I said, "Hey, are you okay?" And she kinda nodded and said, "Yeah, I'm okay." That was more than I had ever heard her say before, so I could tell she was really shaken up. I was like, "Look, I promise you nobody in there gives a crap. It's going to be fine." And she was like, "I don't know, I heard people laughing." I said, "Yeah, those three morons in the front, don't listen to them. They've got the brain capacity of toddlers. They probably pee their pants every day and just wear diapers to deal with it." She actually laughed a little at that, and I felt good knowing I could cheer her up, even if just a little. We talked for another minute, and then we both went back into class. And just like I thought, nobody really cared. Sure, those three idiots in the front made a couple of comments, but nobody paid them any attention. Within a week, nobody even mentioned it again. It was just one of those things that seemed like the end of the world in the moment, but life kept moving. It definitely opened my eyes to how different people can react to things. Some people are just jerks, and some people actually care. Moral of the story, if you ever feel like you're going to pee yourself because of anxiety, please let your teacher know. And if you're a teacher, don't be like mine. She was cold as hell, and that's not what anyone needs in that situation. Also, maybe don't chug a bunch of water before you have to present. Just saying. Oh, and yeah, my teacher did give me detention for walking out of class, but I never went. I told my mom about what happened, and she was totally on my side. She thought I did the right thing. So I didn't have to go, and the teacher was pretty pissed about it. But hey, what can you do? Anyway, that's the story. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please leave a like on the video. I'd really appreciate it. Feel free to leave your story times in the comments down below, and subscribe if you're new. I'll see you guys later. Peace. I'll be out my way, still chilling outside, still getting paid. Don't got much to say, going to the grave. I don't see a downside, only see the cake. Tell them come and try me. They're gonna fail. I'll hit them with a high beam. Little boy time. Yo, what's good everybody? It's Austin here, or Luna. So, today's story time is a crazy one, and yeah, judging by the title, it's definitely wild. I hope you enjoy it, and if you do, make sure to leave a like on the video. Let's get into it. So, today's story takes place back in 2017. Now, I don't want to say it was my senior year because technically I had already dropped out, but if I was still in high school, it would have been my senior year. My class was the class of 2017, so this all happened during that time. As you probably know, there's this tradition called the senior prank. A lot of schools all over the world do it every year, where the seniors get together and play some kind of prank on the school or the principal. It's usually harmless fun, but sometimes it goes way too far. I can confidently say that we took it a bit too far. You're probably wondering, Austin, how did you end up involved in this? You weren't even a senior, right? You quit school. Well, let me explain how it all went down. This all starts off like a regular day back in 2017. I was just in grind mode, you know, working on YouTube videos, streaming, writing music, just grinding every single day. All my friends were still in school, so I didn't have much else to do besides working on content and chilling. It was a Friday afternoon and I was working on a video when my phone rang. I looked down and it was my friend Jake calling me. I answered and he was like, "Yo, what are you doing today?" I told him, "Same thing as always, man. YouTube, Twitch, you know the deal." He was like, "You trying to hang out later?" I was down and I asked him what time. He said, around 7 or 8. I was like, "Isn't that a little late? Don't you have school tomorrow?" And he reminded me it was Friday. I was losing track of time, so I was like, oh, true, alright, I'm in. So, I ended my stream around 8, got ready, and Jake picked me up. We headed over to his place where a bunch of our other friends who still went to our old high school were hanging out. We went down to Jake's basement and we were just kicking it, playing video games, listening to music, the usual. Then Jake brought up the senior prank because it was happening on Monday. He was like, yo, we gotta figure out what we're doing for the prank. We got 3 options, but we need to decide. I honestly forgot it was time for the senior prank already, but Jake filled me in. Then Jake was like, you coming with us for the prank? And I was like, bro, I don't even go to school anymore. I quit. But he told me, yeah, but you're still technically on the attendance list. They still call your name every morning in first period. I was shocked. What? I stopped going over a year ago. Jake kept saying that they still talked about me at school and that the principal spoke highly of me. I couldn't believe it. I dropped out to make YouTube videos and they're still talking about me? Anyway, Jake wanted me to tag along and I agreed, but I told him I wouldn't get too involved. I'd just watch from the sidelines. He said that was fine. So then he starts telling me about the 3 prank ideas they had lined up. Option 1 was simple, confetti blasters in the hallway. You know those confetti cannons that shoot a bunch of paper everywhere? It sounded fun, but it was kind of basic. It didn't really feel like much of a prank. I mean, the janitors would clean that up in 10 minutes. It wasn't exciting enough. Option 2 was stink bombs in the principal's office. Now that one sounded pretty funny. It had a little more flavor to it. Definitely something that would leave an impact. And then there was option 3. This one was out there. Jake said, we could take our dirt bikes, ride over to the principal's house at like 2 or 3 in the morning and ride around his house, making as much noise as possible to wake him up. Now, I should mention that Jake was a big dirt bike guy. He had been riding dirt bikes for years, and another one of our friends raced dirt bikes too. They were practically pros. The rest of us? Not so much. I'd ridden a dirt bike maybe once or twice, and I was definitely not at their level. I wanted to do the stink bomb prank. That one seemed harmless and funny, but everyone else loved the dirt bike idea. Since it was their senior prank, I figured I'd just go along with it, but I told them I probably wouldn't ride. They were cool with that. Fast forward to Sunday night. It was around 11 or midnight and we were still at Jake's house. We were spending the weekend there to get ready for the prank. At about 1 a.m., we started loading up the dirt bikes into Jake's truck and his dad's truck. Surprisingly, Jake's dad was on board with this plan, which blew my mind. He was cool with us doing this prank, and our other friend brought over more dirt bikes, so we ended up with like 8 or 9 of them. We set off to the principal's house and stopped just outside his neighborhood. We didn't pull into the driveway because we didn't want to make noise right away. We unloaded the dirt bikes and started getting ready for the prank. At this point, I was kind of pumped up and decided that if there was an extra bike, I'd join in too. Jake was like, hell yeah, dude, we got one for you. He showed me the bike. It was a smaller, easier one, nothing too crazy, so I was in. Now, here's where things went wrong. The plan was to just ride around the principal's house a couple of times, wake him up, maybe wave at him, and then dip. But there's always that one friend who takes things too far, and in this case, it was Xavier. Xavier was the kind of guy who always pushed things 10 steps beyond what we agreed on. He never stuck to the plan. When we got to the principal's house, we realized that there were no lights outside, no porch lights, no motion sensors, nothing. The only light we had was from the fire pit in his backyard, which still had a small flame going. We figured if we added more firewood, it would make the fire bigger and give us enough light to see while riding around. So, we threw some firewood on the fire, but it wasn't really catching. Maybe the wood was wet or something. Xavier was getting impatient and whispered, "Does he have any gas or lighter fluid in the shed?" We all told him to chill, but Xavier didn't listen. He walked over to the shed, opened it, and found some lighter fluid. He came back, popped the top off, and started pouring it onto the fire. He must have squeezed too hard because a ton of it came out, and the fire immediately shot up like 5 or 6 feet. We all jumped back, and Xavier panicked. Instead of letting go of the bottle, he jumped back while still holding it, squirting lighter fluid everywhere, including on his own leg. Now Xavier's leg was on fire, and he started freaking out, smacking his leg to put the fire out while still holding the bottle. He left a trail of lighter fluid behind him, which ignited the grass. We were all yelling at him, "Put the cap on," but he couldn't hear us. He finally managed to put out the fire on his leg, but by then, the line of fire had reached the garage. The side paneling of the garage caught fire. It wasn't a huge blaze, but it was enough to be a real problem. We all ran over and started trying to put it out, kicking it, stomping on it. I even took off my shirt and started whipping at it. Thankfully, we got the fire out, but there was a big black burn mark on the side of the garage, and just our luck, the front lights came on and out walks the principal. He walked into the driveway, saw all of us, and was like, "What the hell are you guys doing?" We all went silent. He walked over, saw the burn mark on his garage, and then the trail of fire leading to the fire pit. He looked at us and asked, "Are you guys trying to set my house on fire?" Jake immediately started explaining, No, we were trying to do a prank, but Xavier here put lighter fluid on the fire and it got out of control. We put it out, but this is just the aftermath." The principal was obviously pissed. He threw his arms up and said, "I have to call 911. He went inside, called the fire department, and within a few minutes, the fire trucks and police arrived. Jake's dad got out of his truck and came over, asking what happened. We explained, and he was pissed at Xavier too. He told him, "You don't put gas or lighter fluid on an open flame, especially when you're not prepared." The fire department and police were there for a while, but luckily, no one actually got in serious trouble. The principal didn't press charges, he just needed to make a report, probably for insurance purposes. After everyone left, the principal told us not to come to school the next day. We were suspended. He even looked at me and said, "Why are you even here? You're not a senior." I told him I knew, and I tried to stay out of it, but here we were. The next morning, the principal got on the announcements and told the entire school that the senior prank tradition was banned. Moving forward, no more pranks for any future seniors. It sucked because only 10 of us were involved and the whole senior class, hundreds of students, got punished because of us. Jake and the others got suspended for a few days, but honestly, it could have been worse. The principal could have pressed charges for arson and we could have been in serious trouble. So the moral of the story is, don't do this. Don't do anything remotely like this for a senior prank. And also, don't be like Xavier. Don't run around with lighter fluid on a live fire. It's just stupid. Anyway, that's it guys. Pretty wild story. The time we accidentally set our principal's house on fire. And I didn't even get to ride the dirt bike in the end. But yeah, if you enjoyed the story time, please leave a like. I'd appreciate it. Feel free to leave your story times in the comments down below and subscribe if you're new. I'll see you guys all later. Yo, what's up guys? It's Austin here, or Luna. Today's story is one of those moments where I just look back and I'm like, yeah, I was an idiot. Like seriously peak stupid Luna. But hey, we're here to laugh at it, so I hope you enjoy it. Leave a like on the video if you do, and let's get into it. So, today's story takes place during freshman year of high school. Freshman me was definitely at the height of my stupidity. I mean, this was peak me doing anything that would get me in trouble, especially at school. I was that kid, the one not getting good grades, barely focusing in class, sneaking around doing dumb stuff with my friends. Just don't be like me back then, okay? That's my advice. So, this all started on what was supposed to be a regular day in freshman year. I woke up at like 7:30 in the morning, way late for the bus. I got ready as fast as I could, threw on whatever clothes I could find, and just sprinted out the door to catch the bus. I made it just in time, hopped on, and popped in my headphones, trying to salvage my mood by blasting some music. Now, I'm sitting there on the bus, kinda zoned out, when I start noticing something, like a faint smell of weed, and I'm like, wait, what is that? Where's that coming from? I'm looking around, checking if maybe one of my friends had smoked that morning or something, but none of them smelled like it, and then it hit me. Oh no, I realized it was coming from me. I still had a little dime bag in my backpack from the night before. You're probably wondering why I even had that in my bag. Well, the night before, I went to the park with some friends, and I brought the backpack I usually take to school. And in my rush that morning, I totally forgot to take the weed out. So there I am, realizing my bag smells like weed, and I probably smell like it too. Awesome way to start the day, right? I had to think fast. I figured the only thing I could do was stash it in my locker all day and just hope no one noticed. As soon as we got to school, I was heading to my locker, and one of my friends walks up to me and is like, "Yo, you smell loud." And I'm like, "Yeah, dude, I forgot to take the weed out of my bag from last night." He goes, "I mean, I can take it off your hands, for free." I laughed and was like, "Nah, man, I need it later." He just laughed and said, "Worth a try." I said goodbye, tossed my bag in my locker, grabbed what I needed, and headed to my first period class. Oh, I forgot to mention, besides the weed, I also had a pipe and a lighter in my bag, so yeah, the whole setup was basically stinking up my entire locker. I just hoped no one would get close enough to smell it. First period started, and honestly, it sucked. We had a substitute teacher, and he was a total jerk. He was being rude to everyone, even handing out homework, which we never got in that class. Then second period was earth science, and that teacher was pretty awful too. It was just one of those mornings where everything fell off. Then came third period, and that's when things really started. I had history that day, and my history teacher was, unpredictable. Some days he was the coolest teacher ever. Other days he was the biggest jerk you'd ever meet. Unfortunately, today was one of those jerk days. I barely made it to class just as the bell was ringing. Like, the second I stepped into the room, the bell rang. Technically, I wasn't late, but as soon as I walked in, my teacher, Mr. Expletive, was like, Austin, you're late. And I was like, no, I'm not. I literally stepped in as the bell was ringing. He goes, nope, that's still late. Go to the main office. I couldn't believe it. I argued back, seriously, just because I was barely on time? I'm here, can I just sit down? He said, no, I'm done tolerating everyone being late. Go to the office. I kept arguing, but I'm not late. He goes, you know what? I don't like your attitude either. Go to the main office now or I'll give you detention too. I was pissed, so I turned around, stormed out of the classroom, and at that moment I made a very dumb decision. See, back in freshman year, whenever I was angry or frustrated, I'd act on impulse. I'd skip class or throw something or just do something stupid, and today was no different. I decided I was going to grab my bag, grab that weed, and make myself feel better. So I went to my locker, grabbed my backpack, and made my way to the nearest boys' bathroom. I went into a stall, locked it, pulled out the pipe and the weed, and just started smoking right there in the school bathroom. I know, stupid, but I was mad, I wasn't thinking straight, and I just wanted to chill out. I was in there for like 10 or 15 minutes, just hotboxing the stool, scrolling through Twitter, and trying to calm down. I even tweeted, hotboxing the school bathroom right now, because I thought I was being funny or something. I only had a few hundred followers back then, mostly IRL friends, and one of them, my friend Brandon, saw the tweet while he was in class upstairs. He replied, what bathroom? I'm coming to join. I replied, downstairs, near history, and sure enough, a minute later, I heard the door open and footsteps coming in. I got kinda nervous thinking it might be a teacher, but then I heard Brandon's voice. Yo, Austin. I was like, Brandon, that you? He goes, bro, you weren't kidding, it's foggy as hell in here. I opened the store door and he started laughing. I offered him the pipe and he took a hit. We chilled in there for another 5 minutes before I started getting really paranoid. I was like, yo, we should probably get out of here before we get caught. He agreed and said he'd head back to class, and I said I'd go to the main office since that's where I was supposed to be going in the first place. As I was walking up to the office, I realized how much I reeked of weed. I had my backpack with me, which still smelled like it, and honestly, so did I. When I walked into the main office, the lady at the front desk gave me the dirtiest look ever and said, have a seat, Austin. The principal will be with you shortly. About 5 minutes later, the principal called me into his office. He was new, some temporary principal they brought in, and he seemed pretty chill. He looked at me and was like, Austin, I've never met you before. I said, yeah, nice to meet you. He goes, what took you so long to get up here? They said they sent you up like 30 minutes ago. I panicked a little and just said, I was just taking it slow, needed a breather. He gave me this weird smile and goes, a breather, huh? Or a smoke break? And I couldn't tell if he was messing with me or if he knew, so I just nervously laughed and said, yeah, I guess. He leaned back in his chair and said, listen, I'm new here. I wasn't warned that you were a bad student or anything, so I'd like to think this isn't something you do often. But if I catch you again smelling like weed on school property, I'm going to have security search your bag. So if you've got anything on you or are smoking anywhere near the school, just know I can't tolerate that. This is your one warning. I nodded and said, got it. He told me to go sit in the cafeteria until the bell rang for my next class, and that was it. I was free to go. I went to the cafeteria, grabbed a snack, and sat down, just thinking about how lucky I was. That principal was honestly one of the coolest I've ever met. He was the perfect mix of chill, but still knew how to lay down the law if he had to. I respected that. So yeah, moral of the story is, don't be like freshman year Austin. I made a lot of dumb choices back then, and smoking in the school bathroom was definitely one of them. But also, if there's any principals watching, maybe take a page out of that guy's book. He was firm but fair, and I think that's what made him such a good authority figure. Anyway, that's the end of the story time. I hope you enjoyed it. I never officially got caught hotboxing the bathroom, but I also kinda did at the same time. If you liked the video, please leave a like and feel free to leave your story times in the comments down below. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you all later. Peace. Alright, so this story is definitely one of the most ridiculous ones I'll ever tell on this channel. Judging by the title, you probably have a million assumptions already, so let me clear things up and dive right into it. This all takes place back in 2017. In 2017, I was in the peak of my traveling phase. I was all over the place. I think I took like 26 flights that year, which is a lot compared to other years. I was just constantly flying, whether it was going back and forth between LA and New York. My hometown was in New York, but I had a new apartment in LA, or visiting other places like Atlanta, Arizona, and even Canada. I was basically all over the map that year. This story starts off as a pretty normal day. I woke up really early, and I'm talking stupid early, 5:30 a.m. And for someone who didn't usually get up until noon, that was a struggle. I had a flight to catch out of my hometown to get to LA, and to be honest, I wasn't too excited about it. I mean, it's a 6-hour plane ride to LA, and the whole TSA process is just such a hassle. Getting up early, waiting in line, dealing with security, none of it is fun. So I got up, took a shower, packed my luggage, which of course I left until the morning of like an idiot, and called an Uber to the airport. I made it there with enough time, got in line for TSA, and surprisingly, it didn't take too long, about 20 minutes or so. Everything went smoothly. My bags were checked, nothing out of the ordinary happened, and I got to my gate with about 15-20 minutes to spare before boarding started. And at that point, I was getting pretty hungry, so I figured I'd grab something to eat. I found this bagel place close to my gate, ordered myself a bagel, and while I was waiting, I realized I really had to pee. I looked around and saw a bathroom nearby, so I thought, might as well get this over with while I wait for my food. I went into the bathroom, and of course all the urinals were taken, no surprise there, so I walked up to one of the stalls. The door was slightly open and it wasn't locked, so I figured it was empty. I pushed it open, and what I saw next was something that I can never unsee, something that's burned into my retinas to this day. I swung open the door, and there was this guy, an older man, probably in his 60s or 70s, pants around his ankles, just beating his meat in an airport bathroom stall. I was so shocked that the only thing I could think to do was yell, "What the fuck?" and slam the door shut, but because the door didn't latch properly, it swung back open and I had to see it all over again. I slammed it closed again, a bit more carefully this time so it stayed shut, and just as I was turning around to get the hell out of there, another guy walked into the bathroom. He was probably in his early 20s, just a few years older than I was at the time. He saw my reaction and asked, "What's going on?" I looked at him dead in the eyes and said, "Dude, don't go in that stall. Trust me, you don't want to see that." And without even washing my hands, I walked out of that cursed bathroom. At that point, I didn't even feel like I had to pee anymore. I was just traumatized. I went back to my gate, grabbed my bagel, sat down, and tried to pretend like nothing happened. I just wanted to get on my plane, fly to LA, and have a normal day. That was the plan. So finally, after what felt like forever, it was time to board. They started lining us up, and I got in line, hoping to get on that plane and forget about the morning I just had. I got on the plane, found my seat, and sat down. I had a window seat towards the back of the plane, and as people started filling in, I couldn't help but think, please let the seat next to me be empty. I just want a peaceful flight. But of course, my luck ran out real quick. I was sitting there, watching people walk down the aisle, and then I saw him, the same old dude from the bathroom. He was walking straight towards me, and I could feel my stomach drop. Sure enough, he stopped right at my row, looked at his ticket, looked at me, and said, "Oh, I guess I'm sitting next to you." In my head, I was like, you've got to be kidding me. And honestly, under normal circumstances, I would have just sucked it up and dealt with it. But after what I had just witnessed, there was no way in hell I was going to let this guy sit next to me for 6 hours. So I looked him straight in the eye and said, "No, the fucks you're not. Go request a different seat." The guy looked a bit taken aback, but he turned around and walked back up the aisle. A couple of minutes later, the flight attendant came back with him and asked, "Excuse me, sir, did you tell this passenger to request a different seat?" I said, "Yes, I did." She looked confused and asked, "Why?" I looked at her, then at him, and said, "Do you really want to know?" She nodded, and I said, "This guy was jerking off in the bathroom at the airport. I walked in on it, and now he's trying to sit next to me. So yeah, I'd really appreciate it if you could move him somewhere else, preferably not next to anyone." The flight attendant's eyes widened, and she just said, "Oh, okay." She walked back up to the front of the plane, and about 5 minutes later, I watched as 2 more airline employees came on board and escorted the guy off the plane. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but I could tell that they were not letting him stay on that flight. And just like that, I had the whole route to myself. I put in my earbuds, leaned back, and tried to enjoy the flight as much as I could after everything that had just happened. And honestly, the flight itself was pretty chill. I listened to music, napped a bit, and before I knew it, we were landing in LA. When we got off the plane, I spotted the same flight attendant from earlier, and I walked up to her to ask what happened to the guy. She told me that they had security remove him from the flight and put him on a different one because they didn't want any passengers feeling uncomfortable. I thanked her, and she wished me a good day. After that, I made my way out of the airport, and when my friends picked me up, the first thing I said when I got in the car was, "You are not going to believe the story I have for you." My friend looked at me and said, "Is it like a regular story, or is it a Luna YouTube story?" I laughed and said, "Oh, it's definitely a Luna YouTube story." And here I am, years later, finally sharing it with you guys. So, yeah, moral of the story, do not do what that creepy old dude did. An airport bathroom is definitely not the time or place for that kind of behavior. Just keep it together, man. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this story time. If you did, please leave a like on the video. I'd really appreciate it. Feel free to leave your own story times in the comments below and subscribe if you're new. I'll see you all later. Peace. I'll be on my way. I'll be chilling outside, still getting paid, don't got much to say. Headed to the grave, I don't see the downside, only see the cake. Tell them come and try me, they're gonna fuck around and find out. Yo, what's good guys, it's Austin here or Luna. Today's story time is definitely a pretty interesting one. Pretty wild and I think you guys are gonna really enjoy it. If you do, leave a like on the video and let's just jump into it cause this is a crazy one. Today's story time starts off as a regular day in 2016. I had just gotten back from vacation. I was on a trip with some friends to New York City, and yeah, I had just gotten home. I was basically just sitting in my basement, making YouTube vids, playing Counter-Strike, just doing what I normally do to this day, except with different games now. Anyway, I'm sitting there working on a video, just chilling, kind of unwinding from my New York City trip, literally just after I got back. And I get a phone call from my friend Spencer. Now, Spencer is a good friend of mine, someone I've been friends with since I was 10 years old. He grew up in my neighborhood and we're still friends to this day. Spencer was one of those people that had like a borderline obsession with psychedelics. And when I say that, I don't mean like, oh, he just liked to watch videos about them or he did them semi-frequently. Nah, this dude was no joke on shrooms probably like 5 times a week. And not like microdosing, I'm talking big doses. This man was eating handfuls of this shit and then going out and working a normal job. How he did it? I don't know. His brain needs to be studied. But he did. Anyway, Spencer calls me up on this day. I answer and I'm like, hello? And he's like, Luna, how the fuck have you been, dude? And I was like, great, dude. How's our hometown been? He's like, pretty fucking boring without you here. I'm like, oh, you flatter me. What are you up to, dude? He's like, nothing, dude. I'm just bored. I got nothing going on tonight. You want to kick it? I was like, always, dude. Always. So like 2 hours later, Spencer comes over to my house. He was going to stay the night there and we were just kicking it in my basement, listening to some music. He was smoking a little bit. At this point, I wasn't smoking weed, so I was just chilling there, kind of just talking to him. Then he looks at me and he's like, yo, when's the last time you did shrooms? I was like, quite a while ago. I don't know how long it's been, but it's been a long time. He's like, are you down to like maybe try them again? And I was like, I don't know, man. I don't know if I'm ready. He's like, hey, man, you gotta be ready for it. So I completely understand. I'm just asking because like I have some with me. Is it cool if I do them? And I was like, oh, classic Spencer. I'm like, dude, go for it. I'd be happy to trip with you. So he reaches in his coat pocket, pulls out the shrooms and looks at me like, yo, you got any paper plates? I was like, sure. So I go upstairs, grab one, come back and hand it to him. He starts putting the shrooms out on the plate, kind of eyeballing how many he wants to eat. And while he's doing this, I don't know what came over me. I don't know what I was feeling, but for some reason, I just had the urge to do it. I was like, you know what? I just got back from New York. I'm in a good mood, you know, the YouTube stuff's going well. I'm in a good headspace. Maybe I am ready. So I told him that. I was like, you know what, dude? I'm ready. He's like, are you sure? And I was like, yeah. He goes, hell yeah, man. So he gives me a small dose. I couldn't tell you how much it was because we didn't weigh it, but it was definitely small. Not as much as I would normally eat, and I ate them with no problem. Honestly, they weren't too bad. I've eaten a lot of shrooms that are disgusting. They taste like shit. But these ones were not half bad. Still not good, but not bad either. I ate them and got them down with no issue. Spencer looks at me and I'm like, well, guess I'm in it now. He's like, yeah, dude, let's have fun. Fast forward an hour later and it's definitely starting to kick in. I'm feeling good. I'm not even really seeing any visuals. I'm just feeling overall good, like a little warm and fuzzy, kind of like being high. I don't really know how else to describe it. Now Spencer, on the other hand, this dude was seeing some stuff. I remember asking him at one point, yo, you having visuals? And he goes, oh, I'm having a lot of visuals, and starts laughing. After like 20 more minutes, I was like, you know what? Let's get the fuck out of this basement, dude. It's boring down here. He's like, yeah, let's go on a walk or something. I was like, oh, for sure. So we leave my house and walk down to this park that's pretty well lit at night. We're just walking around this park, having a nice conversation, enjoying the night. It was a nice night out, and I remember at this point I was starting to have a little bit of some visuals. Not anything unbearable like I was losing control, just some slight colourful patterns here and there. If I looked at something like a street light or for example the playground we passed by that was lit up, it looked like it was just ever so slightly moving. Fast forward another 30 minutes and at this point we're sitting on one of the park benches, still talking. I'm still having a great time. Things aren't going bad. Spencer's having a good time too. And after sitting there for like 5 more minutes, Spencer looks over at me and he's like, so how's your first time back? I was like, pretty good, actually really good. He's like, man, you don't know how happy that makes me. I was like, yeah, man, me too. Honestly, I think this is going to be one of the best ones I've ever had. He's like, hell yeah, dude. We sit there for about 20 more minutes, just talking, and then, out of nowhere, completely unexpected, I see a car pull into the parking lot of the park we're at, and it proceeds to start driving on the grass up to the bench we're at. Not only did this guy pull in and start driving on the grass, but he also drove up to us on the grass. I couldn't even see the car because the bright lights were on, so I couldn't make out what kind of car it was or who it was, but it was coming right towards us, and I had a feeling about what it was. I looked over at Spencer and I was like, yo, I think that's a cop car. He's like, no, you don't know that. Just wait. And I was like, dude, they're coming right for us. It's either a cop car or somebody who doesn't like us about to cause a problem. And as soon as I said that, the car got close enough to where we could see it. And sure enough, the sirens flick on. It's a cop car. Immediately, my trip went from amazing to one of the worst ever because I just felt doomed. The cop gets out of the car, and I'd actually met this cop before. He was at my house when I got swatted a few months prior, so I knew him. He comes up to us and goes, how you boys doing? I was like, good. He points at me and goes, hey, YouTube guy. I was like, yep, that's me. He's like, I remember you. How you been? Everything okay? I was like, yeah, I'm good. He's like, all right, cool. Well, listen, I was just coming here to tell you guys the park's closed. You can't be here after hours. I don't know what you're doing here, but whatever it is, you gotta go do it somewhere else. Me and Spencer are like, yeah, okay, no problem, sir. We get up and start to leave, thinking that's it. And then he goes, wait, what were you guys doing here? We both look at each other, wondering who's gonna talk first. I take over and say, we were just hanging out. We were in my basement for a bit and got bored, so we wanted to go for a walk and enjoy the night. Which, technically, was true. We weren't doing anything illegal at the park. We were just on shrooms at the park. He goes, okay, I understand. I'm surprised you wanted to leave the basement. You got like 100 gadgets down there, all those computers and stuff. He made my room sound like it was a fucking tech fortress, but it was literally just my gaming PC and 2 monitors. I was like, yeah, I don't know, we got bored of playing video games. We just wanted to come out and enjoy the weather. The cop goes, hey, I got no problem with that. Always a good day when kids want to go out and get some fresh air. I was like, yeah, for sure. He's like, anyway, you guys have a great night. We start walking away, thinking it's over again, and then he goes, wait, one more thing. I was like, yeah? He goes, what's your YouTube name, by the way? I forgot to get it from you when I was at your house a few months ago. I was like, oh, okay. And now I'm just sitting there thinking, oh man, this is weird. This guy's about to go on my YouTube and watch my videos. But you know what? It could have been a lot worse. So I was like, fine, I'll give it to him. I'm like, yeah, it's youtube.com Luna. He's like, Luna, Luna? I was like, yeah. He goes, cool. All right, have a great one, guys. Me and Spencer turn around and leave. As soon as we got far enough away, Spencer looks at me and he's like, yo, that was not on my bucket list for tonight. I was like, you're telling me, dude? He's like, bro, you handled that so well, I couldn't even talk. I was like, dude, it's all good, man. It's what I'm here for. But it kind of fucked my trip up, I can't lie. He's like, yeah, bro, you're telling me. Talk about a fucking vibe kill. I was like, yeah, but whatever. We went back to my house after this, sat down, and Spencer goes, are you gonna tell that story about what just happened? I was like, not now. He knows about my channel. I gotta wait a bit. So, here I am, all these years later, talking about it. I waited. He could very well still be watching, and if he is, hi officer, thanks for being nice to us. But anyway, yeah, I thought it was crazy that I had to talk to the cops in the middle of a trip, which was pretty wild. Shout out to that cop for being cool. He definitely could have been a lot worse. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much the end of the story time. The rest of that night was chill, we enjoyed it, and things were good. So that's the story of how I talked to a cop while I was tripping, and he also knew who I was on YouTube, which just added a whole bunch of funniness to the story, in my opinion. I hope you guys enjoyed this story time. If you did, please leave a like on the video. I'd really appreciate it. Feel free to leave your story times in the comments down below and subscribe if you're new. I'll see you guys later. Peace. Alright guys, what's up? So, yesterday I made a video that was almost 20 minutes long, like 18 or 19 minutes. I got it all rendered, nice and ready for YouTube, uploaded it, and was literally about to hit public when I realized something. I had already uploaded that exact same story a week ago. I was so pissed off, man. It was already 9 or 10 at night, so I just said screw it, gave up, and went to bed. So here I am, making another video, and this time I triple checked that it's not a re-upload. Anyway, my bad for missing that upload yesterday. I was on a solid daily streak and I broke it. Kinda shitty of me, but I promise I'm gonna keep it moving after this. Sometimes you just need to take a step back, cool off, and sleep for 8 hours, and that's exactly what I needed. But enough of that. Today's story is a wild one, and it's pretty funny too. So, let's jump right into it. Today's story takes place back when I was 17. Back then, I had this group of friends I was super close with. I'm gonna give them some fake names to keep their identities private, but there was my friend Justin, my friend Aaron, and my buddy Jake. Now, Jake, he had some seriously strict parents. If they caught him doing anything remotely out of line, he would get grounded for months on end. His household was no joke. And the thing about Jake was, because his parents were so strict, it made him want to rebel even more. You know how it is, someone tells you not to do something and suddenly that's all you want to do. That was Jake, all the time. His parents were always on him like, don't smoke weed, don't stay out late, don't sneak out. And guess what? He did all of those things and then some. So, it was a regular day when I was 17. I was just chilling in my room, not doing much, watching Jersey Shore and bored out of my mind. Then I got a text from Jake. He was like, yo, what are you up to tonight? I told him, nothing, just hanging out. Now, I had dropped out of school at this point, so I didn't have to worry about getting up early the next day. But Jake still had school, which I thought was kinda weird. So, I texted him back, don't you have school tomorrow? Why are you asking me what I'm doing tonight? You can't be out late, dude. You've got an 8 p.m. curfew. He replied, fuck that, I'm not going. I'm skipping tomorrow. I was like, so you're gonna skip school and stay out past curfew? I don't think that's a good idea, Jake. Your parents will probably ground you for like 6 months. He just goes, I don't care. And at that point, I was like, alright man, don't say I didn't warn you. So, fast forward about an hour, Jake and I met up at a park near my house. We both lived close to it, so it was a good spot to hang out. We smoked a little bit of weed, and by this time, it was around 8:30, already past his curfew. His parents started calling his phone, but he just kept sending them to voicemail, completely ignoring them. We kept smoking and chilling at this park. This specific park was kind of our secret spot. Like, people in the community knew about it, obviously, but our parents didn't really know it was where we hung out, so we figured we wouldn't get caught there. We stayed there for another 30 minutes or so, just talking, enjoying our night. It was probably around 9 p.m. at this point, and everything was fine until I saw an SUV pulling into the parking lot. Now, it's 9 knocks at night. No one is pulling up to play basketball or take their kids to the playground. Whoever was pulling up was either a cop patrolling the park or someone else just looking to hang out and smoke, like us. Unfortunately, it wasn't either of those things. Jake and I quickly realized it was his mom's SUV. Both doors swung open and his mom and dad got out, sprinting towards us with a look in their eyes like they were ready to kill us. I had two choices, sit there and face the wrath of Jake's parents or get the fuck out of there. I chose to run. I got up and booked it into the woods behind the park, and I didn't look back. I must have run a good quarter to half a mile before I finally slowed down and looked back. I didn't hear anyone yelling my name, so I figured I was in the clear. But when I turned around, I saw Jake's dad sprinting towards me, and he was close. I started running again, but it was too late. He caught up to me and fucking dove, tackling me to the ground. I was like, get the fuck off me. He was yelling, what are you doing smoking dope with my son? You're a horrible influence. He had me pinned down, and I was like, dude, get the fuck off me. You're assaulting a 17-year-old. But he wasn't letting up. He held me down for about a minute until we both caught our breath. Then he got up, put me in a headlock, and dragged me back to the bench where Jake and his mom were. His mom was in tears, crying like she had just caught her son doing heroin or something. I mean, the way they reacted, you'd think it was the end of the world. Jake's dad still had me in a headlock as he sat me down on the bench. He looked at me and said, what's your parents' phone number? I was like, I'm not giving you that. He goes, what's their number? Now. At this point, I was about to turn 18, and my parents didn't give a shit that I smoked a little weed. YouTube was my full-time career by then, and my parents treated me like an adult. They knew there were worse things I could be doing, so I told him, no, I'm not giving you their number. They don't care about this shit. He goes, if you don't give me their number, I'm calling the police. At that point, I was like, oh my fucking god, fine. So I gave him my mom's cell phone number. It was either that or deal with the cops. He called her up and started telling her that I sold weed to his son and that I was a bad influence. Just straight up bullshit. I didn't even have any weed on me. Jake had it. I wasn't a drug dealer. I met him there to smoke his weed, not mine. I yelled, that's bullshit, stop lying to my mom. He got in my face and told me to sit down. I could hear my mom through the phone screaming at him to stop yelling at me and that she was on her way. 5 or 10 minutes later, my mom pulled up. She lived right down the street, so she got there pretty quick. She got out of her car and I could tell she was not in the mood for this bullshit. She didn't care that I was smoking weed. Yeah, I was 17 and yeah, it was technically illegal, but there were so many worse things I could have been doing. She walked up to us and said, "All right, get in the car, Austin." Then she turned to Jake's dad and said, "Hey, I'm sorry you had to deal with this. It won't be a problem again, but just to clarify, my son didn't sell your son any weed. I would know if he was a drug dealer, he's not." Jake's dad goes, "Are you sure about that? I've heard differently." My mom looked at him and asked, "What have you heard about my son?" He said, "That he sells weed and other hard drugs." My mom just laughed and said, "And other hard drugs? Where are you getting this info from?" He goes, "I'm not going to disclose my source." And she said, "I think your source is your ass." I started cracking up because my mom had my back 100%. She knew I wasn't selling drugs. I was a fucking YouTuber. Why would I need to sell drugs? After she said that, Jake's parents were pissed. The dad started raising his voice at my mom, and I jumped in. "Hey, why don't you tell my mom about how you tackled me in the woods and put me in a headlock?" My mom's expression changed instantly. She stared at him and said, "What?" He tried to defend himself, saying, "It was just a restraining method. I wasn't going to hurt him. I just had to get him to settle down, and I brought him here. I had my arm around his neck, but I wasn't choking him or anything. He's being dramatic." My mom just shook her head and said, "I don't give a fuck how dramatic he's being. You just admitted to putting your hands on my kid. In what world is that okay?" He started stammering, "Well, he was running," and my mom cut him off. "I don't fucking care. He's not your kid. You don't chase him. You don't restrain him. You don't touch him. Are you serious?" Then Jake's mom got involved and she was yelling at my mom not to talk to her husband that way. It was getting heated, so I stepped in to try and calm things down. Jake did too. We got in between them, trying to break it up. I said, "All right, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said anything. Let's just go home." But my mom wasn't having it. She said, "No, fuck that. How about I call the cops on you and your son? He had the weed. He brought it here. And then you tackle my kid and put him in a headlock? Are you fucking serious?" I tried to calm everyone down again. "All right, guys, stop. It's fine. It's over. Let's just leave." Jake's dad goes, "Yeah, good idea. Don't ever talk to my kid again." And Jake, fed up with everything, shouted, "Fuck you, Dad." Then he turned around and ran off into the night. Even their own son was done with their bullshit. After that, my mom and I basically said, "Fuck you, have a nice day," in the most polite way possible. We told them we wouldn't be seeing them again, got in the car, and drove home. On the way back, my mom had my back the whole time. It was honestly really wholesome. She knew the whole situation was bullshit. She knew I wasn't selling drugs, and she knew that, yeah, we were smoking weed, which technically wasn't great, but it wasn't the end of the world. The whole thing was overblown. If my mom had been the one to pull up, she probably would have just taken the weed and driven us both home, and that would have been the end of it. But no, Jake's dad had to go full G.I. Joe on me, tackling me, putting me in a headlock, dragging me back to the bench, and interrogating me like I was some criminal. Anyway, it's all over now. Me and Jake are still friends. We never stopped hanging out. After we both turned 18, we just started hanging out again because his parents couldn't control him anymore. He got an apartment with a buddy, and we were good. We still are. We talk about this story all the time and laugh about it. And here I am, telling it to you guys. So yeah, that's one of the craziest and funniest times I got caught smoking weed. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please leave a like on the video. I'd really appreciate it. Feel free to leave your own story times in the comments down below and subscribe if you're new. I'll see you later. Peace. Yo, what's good guys? It's Austin here, or Luna. I hope you're all having a good night. This video is going up a little later than I expected, but today's story time is a pretty interesting one with a lot of lessons to be learned, especially if you're still a kid, like I was during this story. I hope you enjoy it. Leave a like if you do, and let's jump into it. Today's story takes place in 7th grade, one of my final years of middle school. This was actually during the last month of 7th grade. Now, for the most part, 7th grade was a pretty chill year. I liked most of my teachers, I liked the school I went to, and I liked my friends, so I didn't have much to complain about. However, there were a few kids in my school who weren't exactly great people. They weren't necessarily terrible to me, but they could be terrible to others. There was this one girl in my class. We'll call her Sarah. Sarah had a disability. Now, the school didn't openly tell everyone about it. That's not how it works. But you could tell that she had some challenges. She was very quiet, and whenever she spoke, she mostly talked about things she was very interested in. She loved Barbies, for instance. And in 7th grade, not many girls were still into Barbies like that. Sarah was also really passionate about it, which was impressive. There were also a few other things, like not picking up on certain social cues and just the way she interacted with others. It wasn't rude or anything, but you could tell she didn't fully understand certain situations. Despite that, Sarah was a straight A student. She crushed school. Anyway, you're probably wondering, Austin, how do you know she had autism? Well, here's the thing. My family has some history with autism. and one of my relatives works as a tutor for kids with autism. It turns out she was actually tutoring Sarah. One day she asked me if I knew Sarah from school, and I told her I did. That's when she told me that Sarah had autism and suggested I be patient with her and not let other kids be mean to her. I told her, of course, I'd watch out for her. Now, with all that background info, let's get into what happened. It was a typical day in 7th grade, last month of the school year. Everyone was on edge, just waiting for summer to start. My first period was one of the 2 classes I had with Sarah. It was also the class with the most troublemakers, the Chad-type kids who like to bully others. Every day, someone in that class would be a jerk, and I was always worried it would eventually get directed at Sarah. Unfortunately, that day it did, and in the worst way. That day, we had a substitute teacher, and not just any substitute, the most soulless, boring substitute imaginable. She walked in, and I swear, she reminded me of the lady from Monsters, Inc., the paperwork lady. She walked in, all monotone, like, "Hello children, everybody take your seats, stop horsing around." My friend leaned over and whispered, "Dude, she sounds just like the lady from Monsters, Inc." And I laughed because I was thinking the exact same thing. It was a language arts class, and we were working on a book report project. It was probably the worst day to have a substitute because we had to present our projects, and our actual teacher wasn't there to see it. Sarah's anxiety was always bad when it came to public speaking, and our real teacher knew that, so she would usually let Sarah present privately. But this substitute had no idea. The substitute started calling on people to present, and of course, I was the first one she called. I hadn't even read the book, I just read the summary on the back. I went up there and freestyled an entire book report, just making things up as I went. The substitute asked, "Did you even read the book?" And I said, "Yeah." She responded, "He dies at the end." I said, "Well, yeah, I was getting to that." And everyone laughed. This kid in the back, Aaron, yelled, "Austin, you didn't read that book. You're full of it." So I just said, "All right, I'm done," and went back to my seat. She failed me on the project. Then she called on Sarah. Immediately I could see the fear in her eyes. The entire class could. And of course, the bullies started smirking because they knew Sarah wasn't comfortable presenting. The substitute said, "Come on, honey, come up and present." And Sarah quietly said, "No, thanks." The substitute insisted, and I got up and tried to tell her that Sarah had a disability and she should go easy on her. The substitute snapped at me, telling me to sit back down, and she didn't want to hear it. So I went back to my seat. By this point, Sarah was crying. She clearly didn't want to go up there, and the substitute kept pressuring her, saying she'd report her to the office if she didn't. Sarah started crying hysterically, and when she stood up, it was obvious that she had had an accident. She'd peed herself. The entire room went dead silent. Everyone was shocked except for 2 bullies who thought it was funny and started laughing. Now listen, if it had been anyone else, even me, I could understand people laughing. It would still be wrong, but I'd get it. But this was Sarah, and she had a disability. Everyone knew that except for these 2 idiots. I got really mad, especially because I had family members with autism. I walked up to those guys and asked if they thought they were funny. One of them said, "Yeah, it was hilarious." I asked, "Which part? The part where the girl with a disability cried, or the part where she had an accident, or the part where she ran out in tears?" They got serious real quick. I turned to the teacher and said, "And you? I tried to tell you. I tried to warn you, but you wouldn't listen." She told me to sit down, and when I didn't, she sent me to the main office. When I got to the main office, guess who I saw sitting there? Sarah. I sat down next to her and told her I had her back, just because that's what I'd want to hear in that situation. She asked if people laughed at her, and I told her, "Yeah, but I stuck up for you." She asked me what I said, and I told her everything. She thanked me, but I could tell she was still really embarrassed. I wanted to make her feel better, so I told her, "Hey, you want to know something worse than what happened to you?" She looked interested, so I said, 2 years ago, I pooped my pants in school." She started laughing hysterically, and I let her laugh at me because it seemed to make her feel better. After a few minutes, she said, "Thanks for having my back." I told her, "Anytime." The story doesn't end there. The next day, our real teacher was back, and so was Sarah. Right before class started, our teacher called me and the 2 bullies out into the hallway. I thought I was about to get it, but she started with the bullies. She told them she couldn't believe what she'd heard in the notes the substitute left her, that they had laughed at Sarah and humiliated her. She warned them that if they stepped out of line again, they'd be moved to a different class. Then it was my turn. She called me over, and instead of yelling, she gave me a hug. She told me what I did was really mature for my age, and she was proud of me for stepping up. I asked her if the substitute knew about Sarah's condition, and she said, yes, I left her a note telling her to go easy on Sarah and not make her present. I was relieved to hear that I hadn't been wrong about that. The substitute just didn't care or read the notes. Looking back, I'm pretty proud of myself for standing up for Sarah. I did a lot of dumb stuff in school, but this was one of those moments where I felt like I did the right thing. Moral of the story, whether you're in school or just out in the world, don't be a jerk. It costs nothing to be kind, and it takes way less effort to keep your mouth shut and not make fun of people for things they can't control. If you can, be nice, give someone a compliment, or just don't be mean. One last note, Sarah is doing great now. I still follow her on social media and she's got a really good job not far from where I live. As for one of the bullies, he doesn't seem to have much going on and spends his time running his mouth on Twitter. I'm not sure what happened to the other one. But yeah, karma has a funny way of working things out. Hope you guys enjoyed this story time. Leave your stories in the comments below and subscribe if you're new. I'll see you guys later. Peace. Yo, what's good guys? It's Austin here, or Luna. Today, I've got a pretty crazy story time for you, one that still makes me laugh every time I think about it. This happened back in 2017, and it's probably one of the funniest fan encounters I've ever had, mainly because of how it all started and ended in the most unexpected way. So, this all took place at the end of 2017. I was visiting my hometown for Christmas, just hanging out with family, seeing old friends, and enjoying the holiday season. I had about 2 weeks to spend there, and I was trying to make sure I got to see as many people as I could. By the time I was down to my last 2 days, I realized there were still some friends I hadn't caught up with yet. I hit up everyone I hadn't seen and said, "Yo, I'm leaving in 2 days, let's meet up before I go." Everyone was down immediately, so I decided to have a little get-together at my Airbnb. The Airbnb was a pretty nice spot, and I figured it would be the perfect place for everyone to chill. I invited about 7 of my close friends and told them they could bring whoever they wanted. I set the time for around 8:30 that night. Fast forward to that evening, people started showing up and it was quickly becoming apparent that this was going to be a lot bigger than I thought. It seemed like everyone I invited brought a +1, or in some cases even more. One of my friends brought 4 people with him. Before I knew it, the Airbnb was packed. I didn't mind, it was just a bit unexpected. So I went with it, ordered a bunch of pizzas, grabbed some drinks, and we were having a nice little party. Now, here's where things took a turn. One of my friend's +1s, we'll call him Logan, ended up drinking way too much. You could tell he had crossed that line between having a good time and just being out of control. He was stumbling around, getting loud, and you could see he was starting to act a bit aggressive. I noticed Logan was getting pretty rowdy, so I decided to step in before it escalated further. I walked up to Logan and said, "Hey man, maybe take it easy for a bit. You can have some more later, but let's just chill for a while." I was trying to keep things calm, but Logan did not appreciate my suggestion. He turned to me, and with this angry look in his eyes, he said, "Who do you think you are, telling me what to do? I'm an adult." I understood that he might feel embarrassed being told to stop by someone younger, but at the same time, it was my Airbnb, and I needed to make sure things didn't get out of hand. So I said, "Listen, I get it, but if you can't chill, I'm gonna have to ask you to leave." That didn't go over well. Logan got right up in my face, just inches away, and started shouting, "Oh, you're gonna make me leave? Who's gonna make me, huh?" He was ready to fight, but I had no intention of throwing hands with this guy. Thankfully, my friend saw what was happening and quickly stepped in between us, trying to calm him down. Logan wasn't having it though. He kept pushing against them, trying to get at me, and shouting all kinds of nonsense. After about 10 minutes of this chaos, my friend who brought Logan decided it was time to get him out of there. He grabbed Logan by the arm and started dragging him towards the door, saying, "Alright man, you're done. Let's go." Logan kept resisting, yelling the whole way to the door, and just as he was about to leave, he turned around and, out of nowhere, spit at me. Full-on spit that landed right on my shoulder. Now, that pushed me over the edge. Up until that point, I was trying to stay calm and be the bigger person, but when he spit on me, I just lost it. I looked around and the first thing I saw was a metal paper towel holder on the counter. Without thinking, I grabbed it and chucked it at him, and it hit him right in the face. As soon as it left my hand, I knew I messed up. It could have seriously hurt him. It was a metal paper towel holder. It could have hit him in the eye, broken his nose, anything. For a second, I thought I had broken his nose because of how hard it hit him. Logan stumbled back, clutching his face, and my friend who brought him quickly pulled him out of the door before things could get any worse. They drove off, and I just stood there, trying to process what had just happened. The rest of the night, I tried to put it out of my mind and enjoy the party, but honestly, I felt terrible. I knew Logan was drunk, and while that didn't excuse his behavior, I still felt like I could have handled it better. I usually pride myself on being the bigger person, and this time I definitely wasn't. The next morning, I woke up feeling even worse. I decided I needed to make things right, so I called up my friend who had brought Logan and said, "Hey, I feel really bad about what happened last night. Can you give me Logan's number? I want to call him and apologize." My friend was understanding and gave me Logan's number. I called Logan, and when he answered, he sounded rough. He was clearly hungover. He answered with a groggy, "Hello?" I said, "Hey man, it's Austin from last night. I just wanted to say I'm sorry about everything that happened. I don't know if you remember much, but things got out of hand, and I feel bad." To my surprise, Logan immediately responded, "Bro, I was literally about to call you to say the same thing. I feel awful. I should never have spit on you. That was so messed up." I appreciated the apology, and I told him, "It's all good, man. Water under the bridge." We ended the call on good terms, and I really thought that would be the end of it. Just a weird, awkward incident that we could both move on from. Later that night, I had a few more friends over. It was my last night in town, and it was a much smaller group, just 2 or 3 people. One of the friends that came over happened to be friends with Logan, so I told him, "You know what, man? Bring Logan through. We can actually hang out without all the drinking and chaos." My friend agreed, and about an hour later, Logan showed up. When Logan walked in, he seemed a little nervous, but I went up to him, dapped him up, and said, "Glad you could make it." He smiled and said, "Thanks for inviting me, man. This place is really nice." He looked around and seemed genuinely impressed with the Airbnb. He then asked, "Hey, could I get a tour of the place?" I figured, why not? So I started showing him around. We went upstairs and I showed him the bedroom I was staying in. I had my laptop, speakers, and microphone set up in there, and Logan's eyes went wide when he saw it. He pointed at it and asked, "Yo, you got a little gaming setup here?" I laughed and said, "Yeah, kind of. It's mostly for recording stuff." He seemed intrigued and asked, "Oh, do you make music or something?" I replied, "Sometimes, but mainly I just do video stuff." His eyes lit up and he said, "Video stuff? Like YouTube?" I nodded and said, "Yeah, I guess you could say that." He then asked, "Oh, what's your channel? I'll subscribe and help you out." I could tell he thought I was just some small YouTuber, which was fine by me. So I looked at him and said, "It's Luna." The look on his face was priceless. He went from looking curious to absolutely stunned. He said, "No way. No freaking way. Are you serious? Are you telling me I spit on Luna last night?" I nodded, trying not to laugh, and he just kept going. "Bro, I grew up watching you. I had no idea you were from here. My friend didn't tell me anything." Logan then gave me a big hug, and he just kept apologizing over and over. "Man, I'm so sorry about last night. I had no idea. If I knew, I would have never acted like that." I laughed and said, "It's all good, man. Seriously, don't worry about it." He then said, "I gotta ask you some questions though. I hope you don't mind." I was like, "Go for it." The first thing he asked was, "Is the Illuminati real?" I burst out laughing. That was definitely not what I expected him to ask. I said, "Honestly, bro, if they are real, they haven't hit me up yet, but if they do, I'll let you know." He laughed and said, "You promise?" I said, "Sure, man." Then he asked, "Are you ever gonna do another Q&A with your mom?" I smiled and said, "Probably one day, yeah." He pumped his fist and said, "Hell yeah." Then he asked, "Last question, can you subscribe to me?" I laughed and said, "Sure, man." And I pulled out my phone and subscribed to his channel. After that, we hung out for the rest of the night, just talking and laughing. It was such a funny twist. The day before, we were practically enemies, and now we were just hanging out, cracking jokes. Logan and I actually ended up becoming friends. Whenever I'm back in my hometown, we sometimes hang out, and it's always a good time. Shout out to Logan, he's probably watching this right now. So yeah guys, moral of the story is never judge a book by its cover and don't let things escalate to violence. Also, definitely don't spit on people. That's just not cool. I hope you guys enjoyed this story time. If you did, please leave a like and feel free to leave your own stories in the comments down below. Subscribe if you're new and I'll see you guys next time. Peace. Yo, what's good guys? It's Austin here, or Luna. So, I think it's safe to say that I've officially recovered from COVID, which means I'm back to my daily upload schedule. You can expect a new video every day between 5 PM and 7:30 PM, usually right on time, but you know, sometimes your boy takes a little longer. But I'm just hyped to be back and feeling healthy, ready to tell you all some wild stories, and today's one is definitely an interesting one. So yeah, if you enjoy it, leave a like on the video, and let's jump into this because today's story time is about the time me and my homies stole a four-wheeler from our school. Yup, you heard that right. We actually stole a four-wheeler. Let me explain how we managed to do some crazy shit like this. Alright, so today's story time starts off as a regular day back in 2014. Now, I've gotta say, 2014 was probably the year I started acting a little more like a complete asshole. Just being a rebellious teenager, you know? I had just started hanging out with this new group of friends. They weren't the worst people on earth, but they definitely weren't good kids either. And I guess that rubbed off on me because, well, we did some stupid shit together. And this was definitely one of the dumbest things we did. Alright, so it was a normal day at school in 2014. It was midday and me and my friends had just left gym class. We were heading over to the cafeteria because it was lunchtime, aka the best time of any school day. We sat down at our usual table in the back of the lunchroom, eating, chilling, and just doing what we normally did, shooting the shit, talking about what dumb shit we were gonna do after school. So, there was this one dude in our group, let's call him Skylar. Skylar was kinda like the leader of our group. If you can even call a bunch of idiots doing stupid shit a group, then he was the closest thing we had to a leader. Whenever we didn't know what to do or needed a place to hang, it was usually Skylar who figured it out. His place was always our go-to. So there we were in the lunchroom, and Skylar's like, "Yo, what are you guys doing after school?" And I was like, "Man, nothing much. Probably just going home and playing some Call of Duty, you know?" And pretty much everybody else said the same thing. Then Skylar goes, "How about we all stay after school, then go across the street, grab some burgers, hang out there for a while, and then take the after school bus home. That way, we can kick it outside of school for a bit longer." And I was like, "Yeah man, sounds good." Everybody else agreed, and that was the plan. Stay after school, get burgers, and then catch the after school bus. Now technically, you weren't really supposed to stay after school unless you had a legitimate reason, like detention, after school study hall, or working with a teacher. Basically, you couldn't just hang around for no reason and then catch the bus. But of course, we didn't care about the rules. We figured we'd just sneak back and grab the bus like it was nothing. Fast forward a couple of hours, it's the end of the school day. The bell rings, everyone's getting ready to leave, and I'm just stoked. I was gonna hang out with my friends and grab some food. We met up with Skylar at his locker, kicked it there for a bit until the halls cleared out, and then headed across the street to get some burgers. We were just chilling there, talking shit, losing track of time, and before we knew it, bam, we had missed the after school bus. Like, the only way for us to get home was gone, and I was like, shit man, what now? I lived pretty far from the school at that time, about 6 or 7 miles away, and there was no way I was about to walk that far. My friends didn't drive, I didn't know anybody who drove, and we were all too young to have licenses. Half of my friends were in the same situation, no ride and too far from home. But the other half lived like 2 minutes away, so they didn't give a damn. They were already set to walk back. I had two options. Either I walked home, which wasn't happening, or I called my mom and begged her to pick me up. Obviously, I went with the latter. So I told my friends, "Yo, I'm gonna head back to school, call my mom, and wait for her to come pick me up." Skylar then goes, "Yo, can your mom take me too? My parents won't be home till late, and I don't have any other ride." I was like, "Alright, let me ask." So I called her, and she was like, "Yeah, I'll take Skylar too, but that's it." So we were set. Me and Skylar were gonna get a ride from my mom. Fast forward a bit, me and Skylar are back across the street, sitting on the stairs of the school, waiting for my mom to pull up. Everyone else had either already left or was across the street waiting for rides at the burger place, so it was just me and Skylar sitting there, killing time. Now, the way our school was set up, there was the front where we were, and then a side field that led to the back of the school. The back was where the soccer field and football practice area were, along with the gym. In that side field, right near where we were sitting, there was this four-wheeler. It was one of those ATVs that security guards would use. They were almost never on it though, it would just sit there, parked in the same spot. Skylar and I both noticed it at the same time, and we looked at each other and he's like, "Yo, get a picture of me on it." He jumps up, runs over to the four-wheeler and hops on. I pull out my phone laughing and I take a photo of him. Then Skylar goes, "Yo, they left the keys in it." I'm like, "Get the fuck out of here." Without even hesitating, he turns the key and boom, the thing roars to life. It was loud as hell, like a motorcycle or something. And without any hesitation, he just guns it. He takes off at full speed, kicking up dirt, doing burnouts, just tearing across the field. Meanwhile, the school's soccer team is having practice back there, and I can see the gym teacher noticing what's happening. He starts yelling at Skylar, but Skylar doesn't hear him or just doesn't care, and he's having the time of his life. He does 2 laps around the soccer field while the gym teacher tries to chase him, but obviously there's no catching up with him. After a couple of laps, Skylar comes back to where we were, parks the four-wheeler, gets off, and he's like, "Yo, you gotta take a spin on this thing." Now, I had a choice, either be smart, stay put, and let the gym teacher come over and yell at Skylar alone, or I could be the dumbass that I was back then and take a turn myself. And of course, being the dumbass that I was like, fuck it, give me that shit. So I jump on, hit the throttle, and take off, blowing right past my gym teacher as he's yelling at me. I did 2 laps around the field, just like Skylar, and came back, parked it, took the keys out, and set them on the seat. Then I went back to the stairs to wait for my mom like nothing happened. 2 minutes later, the gym teacher finally gets back to us and he's pissed. He's yelling, "What the hell was that? You boys are in so much trouble. When I say stop, you stop. You could have killed someone or killed yourselves. He's just going off on us. And, of course, at the worst possible timing, my mom pulls up to the front of the school. She rolls down the window and sees what's happening, and she's like, "What's going on here?" The gym teacher looks at her and says, "Are you his mother?" She's like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Well, your son and this boy right here, Skylar, just took the school ATV, drove around like maniacs doing burnouts, and they could have hurt someone." My mom just looks at me like, "Are you serious, Austin? Really? You think that's a good idea? Stealing the school's vehicle and riding around like an idiot?" And I tried to defend myself, saying, "Well, they left the keys in it, so it's kind of their fault too, right?" She wasn't having it. "I don't care. You know better. Get in the car. We're talking about this on the way home." Now, me and Skylar start getting in the car, and the gym teacher goes, "Just so you guys know, I'm telling the principal. You're going to be hearing from her tomorrow." And sure enough, the next day, as soon as we walked into school, security was waiting for us. They took us straight to the principal's office, and she suspended us on the spot. We got 2 days, 1 day out of school and 1 day in-school suspension in the study hall room. So yeah, me and Skylar definitely got in some trouble for that one. But, looking back, it was kind of hilarious. I mean, yeah, we were being reckless and I could have gotten myself hurt, but at least it makes for a good story, right? Moral of the story is, don't do stupid shit like I did. Even though it's funny to tell now, we could have seriously hurt ourselves or someone else. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the story time. If you did, leave a like on the video. I'd really appreciate it. Feel free to leave your own story times in the comments down below and subscribe if you're new. I'll see you all later. Peace. What's good, everybody? It's Austin here, or Luna. Throughout the years of doing YouTube and telling story times on this channel, I've told quite a few stories about some really cool subscriber interactions that I've had, and also some really uncool ones. Usually when I meet one of you guys or girls out in public, it's awesome. I'd say about 99.9% of the time, my interactions with you all are amazing, and I couldn't ask for a better fan base on YouTube. But then, there's that 0.1%, and whenever I meet one of those 0.1%, it always turns into a story to tell. Today, I'm telling one of those stories. I hope you enjoy it. This is probably one of my top 3, if not the #1 creepiest fan encounter I've ever had. So today's story takes place back in 2017. This was about a month after I had moved to California. I was living on my own in my apartment, just enjoying life. Things were going good, amazing even. But you all know how it goes. When things are going great, something always comes along to mess it up. Sure enough, about a month into living in California, it was late one night around 2 a.m. and I was chilling on my computer, playing some Counter-Strike, just relaxing. My phone started ringing, and when I looked down, I saw it was one of my cousins calling me. I picked up, and immediately he was like, "Yo, dude, I didn't know if you'd be awake, but I'm freaking out right now. I need emergency surgery. I'm in the hospital." And I was like, Whoa, chill. What do you mean you need emergency surgery? What's going on? Apparently, he had an appendix problem. His appendix was about to rupture, so he had to get emergency surgery to have it removed. He was freaking out, and I understood that. That's some scary stuff. I mean, I'd be terrified if I had to go to the hospital in the middle of the night for emergency surgery. So I'm on the phone trying to calm him down, and I asked him, "Dude, would it make you feel better if I came out there? I'll be there while you recover for the week and hang out with you." He was my cousin, and family is family, right? Plus, he didn't have a lot of family close by, just his siblings and his mom, who lived about an hour and a half away. Most of the rest of our family wasn't very close to him, and I wasn't that close with them either, to be honest. So I told him, "You know what? Fuck it. I'm booking a ticket and I'm coming." And that's exactly what I did. Within hours, I was at the airport, boarding a flight on no sleep, dead tired but ready to be there for my cousin. I landed in New York, called an Uber, and made my way to the hospital. By the time I got there, my cousin had already come out of surgery and he was doing well. His mom and sister were there too, so I caught up with them and they thanked me for coming all the way out. I told them, "Don't thank me, it's the least I could do." I also offered to help out for the week while my cousin recovered since they both had busy schedules and lived far away. They really appreciated it, and the next day, my cousin was discharged from the hospital and we all went back to his place together. Now, here's where things started getting a little strange. We got to my cousin's apartment, which was in this really nice building. It had a main lobby and an elevator up to his floor. Honestly, way nicer than my place in LA. We got in, and my cousin immediately crashed on the couch while I was in the kitchen catching up with his mom and sister. A little while later, we heard a knock at the door. I went to answer it, and there was this guy standing there with a toolbox. He said, "Hey, I'm here for the hole in the wall." I looked back at my cousin, and he goes, "Oh fuck, I forgot about that. Yeah, I put in a maintenance request a couple days ago before everything went down." Apparently, there was a hole in his wall, and I asked, "Why is there a hole in your wall?" He just kinda sighed and said, "I don't want to talk about it." So I took a guess. Did the hole happen to be near your gaming setup? He just nodded. This dude had gotten mad at Call of Duty and punched a hole in his wall at 21 years old. Classic. So I turned to the maintenance guy and said, yeah, he needs his wall fixed. He's recovering from surgery, so I'll show you where it is. We headed upstairs and the maintenance guy started working on the hole. He was young and seemed pretty chill, cracking jokes about gaming. He even admitted to punching a few holes in his own wall during his gaming days. I just laughed along. I couldn't judge. I had my moments back when I was 14 or 15. As he was working, we got to talking about video games and he asked me what I played. I mentioned Call of Duty and Counter-Strike and he got all excited saying, dude, I love Counter-Strike. I grew up on that fuck. He asked if we could add each other on Steam to play sometime. A part of me felt weird about adding my cousin's maintenance guy, but I thought, you know what, Austin, you're just being judgy. Give the guy a chance. So I gave him my Steam username. When he pulled up my profile, I could immediately tell that he recognized me. He looked at me with this surprised expression and said, dude, I knew it. You're Luna, the YouTube guy. I just smiled and said, yeah, that's me. He got all excited and started asking me questions about YouTube, how I got into it, if it was my full-time job, stuff like that. The questions were pretty respectful, so I didn't mind answering them. But then, something seemed to switch in his brain. Suddenly, he went from being this chill dude to crossing some serious boundaries. He asked if we could make a Let's Play video together for my channel, like a full collab series. I awkwardly told him that it wasn't really my style and that I didn't think my audience would be into it. Plus, I didn't know him well enough for that kind of thing. He got kind of offended, telling me I should just say no instead of dancing around it. I tried to keep my cool and explain, but he was already acting all weird. Then he asked if I ever hooked up with anyone famous. I laughed it off and said no, but he kept pressing, calling me a liar and asking for details. I was losing my patience, so I told him I wasn't comfortable answering that kind of question. He finally backed off, but it was awkward. He finished fixing the wall in silence after that. Before he left, he shook my hand, but he squeezed it so hard it hurt, almost like he was trying to intimidate me. He leaned in and said, don't forget bro, we gotta play some CS soon. I just nodded, trying to get him out of there as soon as possible. After he left, I deleted his friend request immediately. I wasn't comfortable with this guy at all. My cousin, who was still loopy from his meds, asked what was up and I told him, that maintenance guy was weird as fuck. My cousin agreed, saying he had noticed the guy was off too. I thought that was the end of it, but oh boy, was I wrong. The next day, the maintenance guy was supposed to come back to paint over the drywall. He showed up around 3:30 and I let him in, but I didn't want to talk to him, so I stayed downstairs while he went up to paint. When he finished, he came back down, shook my hand again, this time squeezing it even harder, and reminded me about playing CS. I nodded, and as soon as he left, I knew I had to cut this guy off. He was giving me straight up horror movie vibes. About 20 minutes later, I went back upstairs to my cousin's room to do some work on my laptop, and as I walked by his gaming setup, something felt off. I realized my cousin's signed Post Malone Funko Pop, which had been sitting on his speakers, was missing. I looked everywhere, behind the desk, under the chair, but it was gone. I went downstairs and told my cousin, dude, I think the maintenance guy stole your Funko Pop. He didn't believe me at first, but after I checked again and confirmed it was missing, he started freaking out. We debated what to do, call the leasing office, call the cops, something, but my cousin didn't think anyone would help. Then I remembered that I still had the guy's Steam account info. I figured I'd send him a friend request and message him about the Funko Pop. He accepted my request almost immediately and I asked him if he had taken it. It took him like 7 minutes to respond, but eventually he just said, yep, I took it. I asked if he could bring it back and he replied, IDK. I told him that if he didn't return it, I'd have to call the cops. After a bit of back and forth, he finally agreed but said he'd only bring it back if I agreed to make a video with him. My cousin and I just started laughing at how insane this was. The guy was trying to blackmail me over a Funko Pop. My cousin told me to just agree to it, so I did. After some more back and forth, he agreed to bring the Funko Pop first. About 10 minutes later, there was a knock at the door. My cousin got up, swung the door open, and snatched the Funko Pop out of the guy's hand, saying, "Pleasure doing business with you. Have a nice day." Then he slammed the door in the guy's face. The maintenance guy started yelling through the door, asking when we were going to make the video, but we just ignored him. I blocked him on Steam after that. But before I blocked him, I had an idea. I printed out all the messages he'd sent me on Steam, where he admitted to stealing the Funko Pop, along with a typed out story of everything that happened. I took it down to the leasing office and handed it to the property manager, telling her everything. She said she'd look into it and let my cousin know if there were any updates. The next morning, I woke up to my cousin yelling my name. I ran downstairs thinking something was wrong, but he was just grinning and said, "Dude, they fired him." Apparently, the leasing office had taken my complaint seriously and they let the maintenance guy go. I checked my Steam messages and the guy had sent me a message that just said, "I'm disappointed in you." When I tried to respond, I realized he had blocked me. The audacity of this guy to steal from my cousin, try to blackmail me, and then act like I was the one who wronged him was unbelievable. It really made me wonder what else he'd done in his life that he blamed on other people. The whole thing was just insane. In the end, we never saw him again. My cousin recovered from his surgery and he still has that signed Funko Pop sitting on his desk. There's definitely a moral to this story. Trust your gut. If someone gives you a bad vibe, there's probably a reason for it. And if someone steals from you, just call the cops. We were lucky this situation worked out, but it could have gone a lot worse. Anyway, that's the story. Everything turned out okay, and I'd say it was a pretty happy ending. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like on the video and feel free to share your own story times in the comments below. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you guys later. Peace. Alright, so I want to start this off with an apology, okay? I know I haven't uploaded in like 6 days, and that's, not cool of me. I'm sorry. If you're wondering why I haven't uploaded in like 6 days, it's because I have the most cooked sleep schedule I think I've ever had in my entire life. Currently, I'm going to bed at 2 pounds a PM and waking up at 10 or 11:30 PM every day, like on the dot. Tonight, I woke up at 11:30 and it's 3:58 AM as I'm recording this. So when you finally watch this video, just know I recorded it at peak goblin hours, okay? So, yeah, my bad. I've just been playing a bunch of Code D and trying to work on music and stuff like that, and yeah, it's just messed my sleep schedule up a lot. But, I'm here. I decided, you know what? While I have this downtime during the night, I may as well record videos. So, as an apology to y'all, and just cause I've wanted to tell this story for a long time, I'm coming at y'all today with a very long story. And not just like 20 minutes long, I'm talking like long. I don't know how long this video is gonna end up being, but it could be pretty long, because this isn't just like one story. Today's story time is like 3 stories in one, and I've got to tell them consecutively because it just makes the most sense that way. So yeah, today's story time is not just a long one, it's a super long one. If you want more like it, drop a like on the video and let's get into it, man. Let's jump into it. Today's story time all takes place back in 10th grade. This was actually the first month of 10th grade, so I was still kind of getting used to it. I still wasn't really used to my new schedule, new friends, stuff like that. There were new people at the school. Obviously, I still had my friends from freshman year, but there were also a lot of new kids in our classes. So yeah, that was just something I was getting used to still. It had only been a month, so I wasn't completely settled in yet. But for the most part, school was going okay. It was kind of like any other school year. I wasn't getting all the work done like I should have. I definitely skipped a few classes here and there. And I definitely wasn't the best student. You guys all know this by now if you've watched the channel for longer than a day. But, it was cool. And yeah, this all starts off like any other normal day back then. I got up at 6 AM in the morning, took a shower, got ready. You guys know the drill, right? Well, I went to school, and for most of the school day, things were pretty normal. It's really at the end of the school day where this really starts. In my last period class, it was study hall, and I was at the back of the room, just on my phone listening to music, not doing any work, because the teacher we had for study hall let us just kinda do whatever we wanted. And there was this dude that sat next to me in study hall who I didn't know that well. We'll just call him Jacob, okay? Jacob sat next to me in study hall, didn't know him that well. And while I'm listening to music on this day, just chilling, Jacob taps me on my shoulder. I take my earbud out, I look over at him, and I was like, "What's up?" And he's like, "Yo, do you know Alex?" And I was like, "Alex who?" He says his last name, and it was, in fact, somebody that I knew, one of my good friends. And I was like, "Yeah, I know Alex. Why?" He's like, "Bro, Alex is my homie. I've known him since like 2nd grade. Do you smoke?" And I was like, "Smoke what? Like cigarettes? Vape? Weed? What are you talking about?" And he whispers under his breath, "Weed." And I was like, "Yeah, I do." I kind of started laughing, and he's like, all right, bet. So, like, if you're interested, dude, me and Alex are meeting up after school today. We're gonna be linking at Alex's house, cause his parents don't get out of work till 9 naru. So if you want to come over, we're gonna be matching. If you want to come match with us and smoke up, like, you're invited. Now, for anyone who's not familiar with the term match or whatever, it just means providing an even split of the devil's lettuce together. So, everyone throws in the same amount and you all smoke together. I didn't have any weed at the time because your boy was not only making no money, but didn't have any plug or anyone to buy it from. So I told him that. I was like, "Oh man, I'd love to, but unfortunately, I'm dry. I don't got anyone to get it from, so I'm just gonna sit that out today." And he was like, "Dude, we got you. You can just buy some off us." And I was like, alright, I mean, if you're cool with that. He's like, bet, yeah, just bring like $20. And I was like, okay. So, yeah, I was kind of stoked. I can't lie. It had been a stressful day. It had been a stressful week, even. So, I was kind of excited to just go to my friend's house and kick it. Also, I was going to be kicking it with this Jacob dude who I just met, who apparently was really cool with Alex, which kind of blew my mind because Alex is somebody that I knew for a very long time as well. The fact that I'd never heard about this Jacob dude kind of surprised me, but that's besides the point. So, fast forward to after school. I went home, took the bus home, got off the bus, went inside, took a quick shower because it was really hot out and I was sweating all day. And after I got done showering, I got dressed and started riding my bike over to Alex's house. Now, upon pulling up to Alex's house, I walked in, dapped up Alex, dapped up Jacob. Jacob was already there. I sat down next to both of them on the couch. I handed Alex a 20 and immediately he gave me a little bit of weed and we got to smoking. Now, about like, I don't know, 2 hits in, I kind of just started, making small talk. And I was like, yo, Jacob. And Jacob's like, yeah, what's up? I was like, oh, how long have you been going to our school? Because I swear I've never met you before. And like, you said you knew Alex since like way back. Have you always gone to our school? He's like, no, man. I used to go to private school. My mom moved me to public school this year, so it's my first year at your school. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. That makes sense. And I asked Alex, I was like, bro, why don't you ever tell me about this dude? He seems cool. Just kind of trolling him a little bit. And Alex was like, dude, I have told you about him. And I was like, no, you haven't. He's like, yes, I have. And I was like, no, you haven't. He's like, okay, whatever. I'm just telling you I have. To this day, I don't believe him. I had never heard a word in my life about this Jacob dude. But that's besides the point. Anyway, the smoke sesh was cool, man. We just all smoked together, had a good time, ended up making some pizza rolls afterward. It was just a very chill day, right? Now, after we got done smoking, I wanted some to take home for myself because I didn't have any, and the amount that I just bought off Alex, we'd already smoked because we all matched. So I asked, yo, is it cool if I buy some more off you and take some home? And he was like, yeah, I could do a little bit. I was like, cool, how much? He's like, would you be good with like another dub, like $20? I was like, yeah. So I gave him another 20. It was my last 20. I was supposed to be using that money for food, but it's okay. I used it on something that's gonna make me hungry instead. So yeah, I gave him the 20. He gave me another 20 worth of weed, bagged it up for me, and after that I dapped up both of them, told them that I had a good time, and I appreciated them inviting me, and I left. I jumped on my bike and started riding my bike home because I had to get home soon, because my mom was gonna be home soon from work. And I did not want to get in trouble because I didn't tell her where I was. So if I wasn't home when she got back, she would definitely start freaking out on me a bit and probably ground my ass. So yeah, I got out of there. So yeah, I rode my bike home. I got home relatively quick. It's a pretty short bike ride. Got back to my house. My mom was not home yet. I still had about 25 or 30 minutes until she was home from work. So the first thing I did after getting home was I went to my room and put my weed in my secret little hiding spot. Now, this hiding spot wasn't the safest way of hiding my weed, but it was the only spot that I ever put it that my parents never found. So, I guess it was a pretty good one. I used to put it in the bottom of my deodorant. I'd pop out my deodorant stick and then shove it double bagged in my deodorant and then put the deodorant back on top so it just looked like a normal deodorant stick. Looking back, that's probably not the best spot because you risk getting deodorant everywhere. Like, there were definitely a couple times where I smoked after having it in that hiding spot and my weed tasted like deodorant. And that's probably not good. I probably killed quite a few brain cells. Anyway, that's besides the point. Enough about my deteriorating brain, okay? Yeah, I put it in that spot and like 20 minutes later my mom got home and everything was fine. Everything was good. I had already changed my clothes at this point, so I didn't risk, smelling like skunk or anything. Things were fine, right? Well, the next day rolls around. I wake up at 6 in the morning because I had school on this day and it was not the weekend yet, even though I really wished it was. Yeah, I got up out of bed, took a shower, got ready for the day, and on this day, I had gym class. And around this time of year, it was still warm in New York, so we were going to be outside in the hot sun, and I did not want to be outside in the hot sun, but we had to be, because that's what the gym teacher wanted to do, right? So without thinking, I just grabbed my deodorant and popped it in my backpack because I knew I was going to need it after gym, because I'd probably smell bad if I didn't have it. So yeah, without thinking, I just grabbed it, put it in my backpack, thought that I would use it after gym, and, didn't think twice, right? Completely forgot. It just completely left my mind that there was weed in there. Well, anyway, I got ready for school really quick, jumped on the school bus, and about halfway through the school bus ride, I was going through my backpack because I was trying to find my portable charger in my backpack to charge my phone because I forgot to charge it the night before. And while I'm going through my backpack, I see my deodorant stick in there, and it finally hits me. I'm like, oh shit, I have weed at the bottom of that deodorant stick. Now, I freaked out a little bit, but for the most part on the inside, I was thinking, okay, you know what? You're fine, dude. Like, that weed is completely smell proof. It's double bagged, it's at the bottom of the deodorant stick. You have your deodorant stick on top of it. Like, it's fine. It just looks like a normal deodorant stick, and it smells like one too. No one's gonna know. And, that was the truth. Like, I really didn't have a very high chance of getting caught. Like, no one was gonna know that I had weed in there unless I told them. So yeah, I just made sure to be extra cautious at school. I kept it in my backpack up until gym class. I didn't take it out until then because I didn't need it. But when gym class rolled around and it was time to use the deodorant after gym to, make sure I didn't smell bad, of course something had to go wrong. So yeah, I get to gym class, right? And like I said, we were outside, we were on the track, it was hot out. And after gym, your boy was sweating and it was time to pop on that deodorant. And I'm in the locker room with my class and I reach for my backpack, I grab my deodorant, I start putting it on. No big deal, right? Like I said, it doesn't smell or anything. The deodorant doesn't have a weed smell. And while I'm using it, I hear someone behind me go, "Yo, Austin." I turn around and it's my friend Josh. Now, this friend of mine, he wasn't a close friend of mine. He was more of a school friend. He was someone I only really saw or talked to at school. We never really hung out outside of school. Not for any particular reason, we just never did. But I was like, "Yo, what's up, Josh?" He's like, "Can I borrow your deodorant?" I forgot mine. And I was like, I'm thinking about it, right? Because on one hand, I really just don't want anyone borrowing my deodorant because there's weed in there, and I don't want the risk of someone finding that out. And on the other hand, I never liked anyone using my deodorant to begin with. That always kind of grossed me out, like someone rubbing my deodorant on their sweaty ass armpits and then giving it back to me to use again in the future. I didn't like that. It's gross, right? So I'm standing there and I'm like, I don't know, man. And he's like, "Dude, come on, just real quick. I'm not even that sweaty. I just want to be safe. I didn't put any on today." And I was like, "All right, fine." And I handed it to him. And immediately he starts turning the knob at the bottom to make the deodorant come up higher, which I didn't understand because it was more than enough, already up to use. He didn't need to have it come up any higher. And this dude just keeps turning it. The deodorant keeps getting higher and higher and higher. And I'm like, "Dude, you have enough. It's gonna fall out if you keep turning it." He's like, "All right, chill." And he goes to use it, and sure enough, he put the deodorant way too high. So when he went to rub it under his arm, it completely just fell out of the container. The deodorant stick fell out of the deodorant container, and guess what fell out right afterwards? Because now there was nothing holding it in. The weed. It fell right out onto the locker room floor. Not even a second goes by, and I crouch down, I grab it as fast as I can, and I put it in my back pocket. But it was too late. Everyone already saw it. They knew what it was. Josh saw it. 2 of my friends in the locker room saw it. But they weren't the problem, okay? Those were my friends. They knew I smoked. They weren't gonna go tell somebody. The problem was that another dude saw it who I wasn't friends with. And this guy that saw it, he has a reputation at our school for being a teacher's pet and telling on people all the time for things they've done wrong. I could see it on his face. I could see it on his face looking at me that he was gonna tell on me. He was gonna leave the locker room, go straight upstairs to the main office and tell the principal about it. And I knew this, right? So I walked up to him and I was like, "Hey man, listen, please don't tell anybody about what you just saw. I will be in so much trouble, it will ruin my life. I'll get grounded for like 3 months. Please don't, please." And this dude is just staring at me. We're just gonna call this guy Brendan, okay? After Brendan stares at me for like, I don't know, a few seconds of just silence, he's like, "Okay, I won't tell anybody." And I was like, "You promise, man? You swear?" He's like, "Yeah, I do." And I was like, "Shake on it." And I put my hand out and he shakes my hand and he goes, "All right, is that good?" And I was like, "Swear on your mom." And he's like, "What?" And I was like, "Swear on your mom you're not gonna tell on me." He's like, "I'm not doing that. That doesn't mean anything." And I was like, "Bro, if it doesn't mean anything, then you should have no problem saying, 'I swear on my mom I won't tell on you,' because it's not gonna do anything, right?" And he's like, "No, it's just stupid." And he turns around and walks away from me, just out the door of the locker room, and now I'm standing there, just knowing I'm fucked, right? Because he's gonna go tell on me. I guarantee within 5 minutes I'm gonna hear an overhead announcement being like, "Hey Austin, come to the principal's office, you're fucked." No, they're not gonna say that, but you know what I mean, right? So he leaves the locker room, I know what's about to happen, and so do all of my friends, right? Because they all know about this dude. So after Brendan walks out of the locker room and I'm standing there, just completely like in shock, Josh puts his arm around me and he's like, dude, I got you. Take the weed out. Give it to me. And I was like, what? He's like, give me the weed. I'll hide it for you until the day's over because you are for sure about to go to the main office and they're probably going to search you. So like, better safe than sorry. And I was like, are you sure you want to take that risk? He's like, dude, this is my fault. I got you. And I was like, bro, it's not your fault. It's my fault for bringing it. I didn't even mean to bring it today. And he's like, still, bro, I'm the one that made it fall out on the floor. I got you. And I'm like, all right, man, I appreciate it. So I take the little baggie out of my back pocket. I give it to him. He pops the little baggie into his shoe. He daps me up and he's like, good luck at the office. And he leaves. I'm just standing there, kind of in shock still about what just went down. And my other buddy at the locker next to me is like, dude, he's real for that. And I was like, yeah, that was actually crazy. After that, I left the locker room. I went to my next period class. And like I said, I was just expecting it any minute. I knew that announcement was going to come on and be like, Austin to the main office. And I got to my next period class and I was in there for about 20 minutes. No overhead announcement yet. Nothing came on, so I'm thinking to myself, okay, maybe the dude didn't tell on me. Maybe Brendan just went to class and forgot it happened. Then, like 10 minutes later, at this point, like a half hour into class, sure enough, I hear the beep of the announcement come on, and I hear, Austin, to the main office, please. And I'm just sitting there in my chair like, fuck, I knew it. So I stand up, I walk out of the classroom, I walk up to the main office, and I walked into that main office and immediately knew what was about to go down. My principal was sitting there, the school cop was sitting there, and they both looked incredibly disappointed in me. I sit down, and my principal goes, hey Austin, how you doing today? I was like, pretty good, how about you? She's like, great, so do you know why you're here? And I was like, I have no idea. I was completely lying, I definitely had an idea. She goes, well, we got a complaint from another student claiming that you were in the locker room after gym class and you had marijuana on you. Is that true? At this point, guys, I have two choices. I tell the complete truth and I get in a shit ton of trouble, or I lie to her. And me being 16 and just not wanting to get in trouble, I chose the lying route, which, you know, isn't the right thing to do. But yeah, I did. So I was like, no, I didn't have any marijuana in the locker room. Who told you that? And she's like, we're not going to disclose their name for their protection. Complaints like that remain anonymous, but the person who complained would not have a reason to lie, so please be honest with us. Did you bring any marijuana to school today? Yeah, man, I kept lying. I was like, no, I didn't bring any. She's like, okay, well, would you mind consenting to a search then? I was like, sure. Immediately, this cop takes my backpack, right, and starts ripping through it. He dumps everything out on the table that was in it, and then he starts going through everything. He opens up my pencil case, he's opening up notebooks, he's opening up textbooks. He then grabs my deodorant, pops the cap off it, unscrews the deodorant, and smells the inside of it. So, like, this is definitely a spot that this cop had seen before. And I'm not gonna lie, I think the deodorant container still smelled a little bit like weed, because when he popped the deodorant stick out of the container and smelled the inside of the container, he made a face and then looked at me with kind of this look like, I smell it, I know you have it. After this, he keeps searching through the rest of my belongings. And yeah, he finds nothing because there was nothing in there anymore. But he didn't want to give up. He was like, can you empty your pockets? I was like, sure. So I emptied my jacket pockets, my pants pockets, all that stuff. And all I had in there was a pen, my wallet, my phone, and my keys. After that, he's like, can you turn around for me? I'm just gonna pat you down. I'm like, okay. So this cop pats me down for like a solid 30 seconds. He really wanted to find something, but of course he didn't because I didn't have anything anymore. He walks back to the corner, crosses his arms, and looks at my principal. He goes, he's clear. I definitely smelled a little bit when I was searching, but I didn't find anything. I'm just standing there, shitting myself. My principal goes, Austin, one last time. Do you have any marijuana on you? Did you have any marijuana on you? Let us know. And yeah, your boy kept lying through his teeth. I'm not proud of it, but I did. I was like, no, I don't have any. I didn't have any either. I don't know who told you, but they're lying. She's like, okay, have a good one. And she sends me away. After this, I went back down to class. My class was ending at this point, and one of the girls who sat next to me in class was like, what happened? I was like, I had to get searched. She's like, what for? And I was like, weed. She's like, did you have any? I was like, no. And she's like, well, why'd they search you? I was like, because I was suspected of having some. And she's like, why? I was like, because somebody told them that I had weed on me. She goes, well, did you? She keeps asking me all these questions, and I was like, no. I lied to her. I didn't want to talk to her about it. She goes, have you ever smoked weed before? And I was like, yes, have you? She goes, no, absolutely not. That shit rots your brain. I was like, yeah, well, I don't know. I'm okay. She goes, are you? What do your grades look like? I was like, yo, I don't even know you like that. Why are you asking me all these questions? She's like, see, you won't even tell me. It's because your grades are probably bad from rotting your brain from weed. I was like, okay, listen, you are on your phone literally half of class every time we're in here, so I don't want to hear anything about rotten brains when you're on your phone from the time you wake up to the time you go to bed, okay? I don't want to hear it. She rolls her eyes at me and goes, whatever, pothead. Right after she says this, the bell rings and we just get up and start leaving class. I'm in disbelief at just the day so far, right? I was ready for the day to be over. I thought it was going to be over soon and that nothing else would happen, but of course that wasn't the case. It gets better. Fast forward to lunchtime, okay? I'm at the lunch table, I'm with Josh, Alex, a couple other friends. Josh asks me if I went to the main office. I was like, yeah, I did. I got called up there and they searched me. He's like, did they find anything? I was like, no, because you have it, right? He's like, yeah, I still got it, bro. Don't worry, I got you. I was like, dude, I just want this day to be over. This whole day is fucked. I want to just go home and go to sleep or something. This is just too much today. Josh is like, don't worry, bro. It's almost done. You can go home soon, smoke your weed, chill. You'll be fine. And while I'm talking to them, I'm looking around the lunchroom, just kind of people watching, and I see none other than Brendan, the kid who, without a doubt, was the one that told on me. I see him staring at me in the corner of the lunchroom. He's just staring at me, and the minute I make eye contact with him, he looks away, because he knows he's guilty, right? So I want to know. I get up out of my chair and walk over to Mr. Brendan's table. I was like, Brendan, can I talk to you for a sec? He's like, oh, sure. He stands up, and we go to the side of the lunchroom by the vending machines. I was like, Brendan, I just had to go to the main office and get searched. You wouldn't happen to know why? And he's like, I mean, it's probably because you have weed on you. I was like, yeah, but Brendan, how would they know that? You said you weren't going to tell anybody, and I think you did. He's like, I didn't tell anybody. I could just see it on his face. He wouldn't look at me when he said it. He was lying. I was like, Brendan, you're a shitty liar, dude. If you're going to lie, at least make eye contact so it looks believable. I just had to do that to the principal because you made me go there. He's like, dude, I didn't tell anybody. I was like, Brendan, I'm not even going to do anything to you if you tell me the truth, okay? I just want to know if it was you or not. He hesitates for a sec and he goes, fine. I told, okay. And I was like, Brendan, why? You don't gain anything from it. They don't give you money for telling on me. They don't give you candy. What do you get out of it? Is it just that you enjoy watching me get in trouble? He's like, no, I just want to do the right thing. At the time, that really made me mad. I had all these thoughts running through my head, all these insults. I wanted to call him a teacher's pet, a kiss ass, a bitch. I wanted to call him everything. But looking back as a grown adult now, there's a lot worse people in the world than Brendan. I mean, even though he told on me, at the end of the day, it was my own damn fault. I shouldn't have had it on me. So I didn't call him any names. I didn't yell at him. I kept my word. I didn't do anything. I just rolled my eyes, sighed and said, all right, Brendan, thanks for being honest. I turned around and walked away. I went back to my lunch table and sat down. Josh was looking at me and he's like, why were you talking to Brendan? Were you pressing him or something? I was like, kind of. I just wanted to know if he was the one that told. Josh is like, dude, of course he fucking told. And I was like, yeah, I just wanted to hear it from him. Josh is like, did he admit it? I was like, yep, he did. Josh is like, are you gonna do something to get back at him? I was like, no bro, I didn't get in trouble. I'm just gonna keep my head down, get through the day, and just chill. Now, at this point, I really thought nothing else could happen. I really thought I could just get through the rest of the day, go home, and chill. And of course, it keeps going. Fast forward to the end of the day, my last period class. This time, I didn't have study hall last period. I had math. So yeah, I was just in my math class, counting the minutes till the bell would ring so I could leave and go home. Finally, after 50 long minutes, the bell finally rang and it was the end of the school day. It was over, I was free, I was ready to go home. I start leaving the school, right? I had a plan. I was going to meet up with Josh outside of school, right behind the bus line, and get my weed out of his shoe and put it back in my pocket so I could go home. As I'm walking out of school, as I'm walking down the sidewalk to the end of the bus line to meet up with Josh, I hear someone behind me go, yo, Austin. I turn around and it's Brendan, the dude who just told on me earlier in the day. I was like, what's up, Brendan? He's like, I just want to say my bad for telling on you, man. I was like, it's fine. I didn't get in trouble. It's done. It's over. We're good. He's like, well, where'd you put the weed? I'm like, Brendan, listen, man. I appreciate your apology, but dude, you are notoriously known for telling on people for things. If I tell you where the weed is, you're just gonna go tell the principal and I'm gonna get in trouble. He's like, no, I won't, bro. School's over for the day. We're good. I was like, Brendan, go away, please. I was just so over it. I wanted him to leave me alone. Finally, he leaves. He turns around and walks away. I go to the end of the bus line, meet up with Josh really quick. We do the quick exchange, I get my weed back, I pop it in my pocket, I get on my bus and I ride home. After this, I'm thinking, okay, I made it through the day. It was a close call, but I'm good. They never called my parents or anything, which was great because that saved me a lot of trouble at home. I knew my mom, if she got a call from my principal, I would have been in trouble, and I didn't want to deal with that. I didn't want to get grounded or anything. So yeah, I got home after this, had a nice normal day, a nice normal night. The next day rolls around, school. Now this time it's Friday. It's Friday morning. I wake up in a great mood because, this day couldn't possibly go any worse than the previous day, right? And I'm not bringing weed to school on accident this time, so I'm good, right? I get up, I take a shower, I go to school. Everything starts off great. About 30 minutes into my first period class, an announcement goes on the overhead announcements calling my name to the main office. I was so confused. I was like, what? So I stood up, I got up, walked upstairs to the main office, and I get in there. Once again, my principal and the school cop are in this room looking very disappointed at me. I was like, what's going on? My principal goes, have a seat, Austin. I was like, okay. So I sit down across from her. She goes, so shortly after the day was over yesterday, we had a student who was staying after come into the main office and played us a recording that's pretty damn hard to ignore. I shit you not, this woman proceeds to pull out her phone and play an audio recording of me and Brendan's conversation. This motherfucker Brendan had his phone in his pocket and was recording me saying like, I'm not gonna tell you where the weed is cause then you'll just go tell the principal. So like, dude, it's like this kid was wearing a wire for the principal. I couldn't believe it. I felt like I was in some fucking Breaking Bad episode. I was like, okay, well I know who recorded that. That's Brendan. She's like, well, that's besides the point. The point is, you lied to us yesterday. I was like, did I? I mean, you searched me and didn't find anything, so, am I free to go? Trying to get all lawyer-like on them, right? And she's like, no, you're not free to go. We'd like to search you again, and this time we'll be searching your locker as well. I was like, okay. This honestly surprised me because I thought they searched my locker the day before, but I guess they didn't. So yeah, the school cop was like, can I search you? I was like, go ahead. He searched me. After that, we went down to my locker, he searched my locker, found nothing. And once again, we were in this stage of, they have nothing on me. They had nothing other than the recording, which, kind of had me admitting it. But there was no physical proof, so they weren't able to do a whole lot with it. But that didn't mean I didn't get in a shit ton of trouble. So what ended up happening was they called my mom in, and they explained to my mom the whole situation. The principal basically said, we didn't find anything on him. He probably gave it to a friend or put it somewhere we couldn't find it. But we definitely have reason to believe he did have it on him at some point. So, do with that what you will. She basically called my mom and said, hey, we don't really have anything on him to get him in trouble here, but we're pretty sure he had weed on him, so you should ground him at home. That's basically what she did without saying it. And that's exactly what happened. After school that day, I lost my privileges to everything. I had no Xbox, no phone, no computer, no outside privileges. I couldn't go hang out with people. I had to sit in the house and do nothing but stare at the ceiling for a goddamn month. It sucked. But you know what? At the end of the day, when it's all said and done, it was my own damn fault. I accidentally brought weed to school, which was stupid, and then I essentially snitched on myself to a person who was recording me without my knowledge. To this day, I cannot believe the level of dedication that Brendan had to getting me in trouble. This kid really had a phone recording in his pocket, like wearing a wire type shit. After this video is recorded, I need to look him up. I want to know if he's working for the FBI yet or not, because this dude should be working for the FBI. The level of dedication he had to getting people in trouble was insane. He's got to be a detective or something now. I don't know. And then anyway, that's actually the end of the story. It was so many little things in one that all just led to this conclusion of craziness. And I learned some valuable lessons. Moral of the story, obviously, is don't be like 16-year-old me. That's just number one. Because I definitely put myself in this situation. Even though there were a lot of factors that were annoying at the time, it was ultimately my fault. But yeah, guys, definitely a crazy one, definitely a long one, just an all-around insane one. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, I would really appreciate it if you left a like. Feel free to leave your story times in the comments down below and subscribe if you're new. I'll see you later. Peace. I be a star now, steady flowing, feeling high as Mars. I'ma keep on going, always raise the bar. Told me I cannot do it. Look at them all. Yo, what's good guys? It's Austin here, or Luna. So, this one's definitely a crazy one. You could probably tell by the title. It's definitely something I didn't expect, and I'm going to talk about it today. Obviously, a disclaimer, story times are for entertainment purposes only. Don't go repeating things you hear in these stories because they are dangerous. This one is a wild ride, so I hope you enjoy it. Leave a like on the video if you do, and let's get into it. So, today's story time all takes place during the first month of 10th grade. Now, 10th grade was actually the year of high school, where I started to, well, stop going. I slowly began phasing out of high school and pursued YouTube full time. But in the beginning, the first month, I did try to go and stick it out, and something happened that was absolutely insane. And I wasn't doing very well right from the start. The first 2 days I was at school, I wasn't doing any of my work. I was super unmotivated, like, I didn't want to be there. I wanted to be home making videos. It felt like a waste of time, and it wasn't a good mindset to have. I definitely could have done a lot better if I put even 10% of my effort into it, but I didn't. I was just in a bad headspace, and my teachers and principal noticed. They called my parents up and were like, hey, we want to move him into a smaller class. I remember my mom telling me this, and I said, why did they want to move me to a smaller class? Because I'm dumb? She was like, you're just not doing any work, and they think you need more help because you're not doing anything. They might want to give you more one-on-one support or help you along the way more. I said, so what, they're putting me in special education? She said, that's not what this is, you idiot. I replied, then what is it? She said, it's for kids that aren't doing their work. I said, whatever, put me in that class, go for it. I don't care. That was my motto. I didn't care. So, the next day, they moved me into smaller classes right away, and I immediately knew the second I walked into the first one that my high school experience was about to change a lot. And not for the better. I quickly realized they put me in what people would call the bad kid classes. These classes were where they put kids who either didn't do their work or were very misbehaved. To give you an example, literally the first 10 minutes of my first period in one of these classrooms, I witnessed a kid ball up a piece of paper with like 5 erasers inside of it, essentially making a fast-moving hard projectile and hit the teacher in the head with it. Then he laughed maniacally when she turned around with the saddest look on her face. It was honestly one of the saddest things I'd seen in school, and I thought, wow, this is a terrible class to be in. These kids are evil. The first week was hell. Every class I was in that was supposed to help me do better only made me want to leave even more. I was genuinely afraid I was going to get jumped or robbed. Anyway, on the second week of these classes, I walked into school like any other normal day. I went to my first period, which would change each day since the schedule rotated. On this particular day, I had history class first, which by far had the worst crowd in it. I got to history class and I immediately sat down in the back. There were no assigned seats, so I just made my way there. It was really early. Keep in mind, our classes started at 7:20 in the morning, so I was exhausted. Then this kid walked in, we'll call him Seth. Seth was easily the worst behaved kid in that entire class, and if I had to guess, I knew he'd end up in jail someday. I don't like making assumptions about people, but I turned out to be right. He's in jail now, but we'll get to that at the end. Anyway, Seth walked into class, and since there were no assigned seats and he didn't know many people, he picked the seat next to me. He sat down and said, "What up, bro?" I was like, "What's good?" He said, "Man, I'm high as hell. High as hell." I replied, "Nice." He then said, "You need anything?" I was like, "What?" He clarified, "You need anything? You trying to cop?" I then realized he was trying to sell me drugs. I said, "Nah, dude, I don't need anything besides a nap. I'm tired as heck. It's 7:30 in the morning." He laughed and said, "I feel that." Class started about 5 minutes later, and everything seemed normal for the first 20 minutes. Then Seth, sitting next to me, put his head down and fell asleep. I figured he was just tired like the rest of us. The teacher noticed and said, "Seth, pick your head up. Come on, pay attention." He didn't move, so she repeated, "Seth, I'm not going to ask again. Pick your head up or you're getting detention." Still no response. She walked over to our table and tapped him on the shoulder, saying, "Seth, come on, what are you doing?" He still didn't get up. Then she started pulling on his hoodie and still nothing. At this point, everyone started to freak out a little because he wasn't responding. The teacher lifted his head off his arms, getting face to face with him, and said, "Seth, wake up." I looked over at his face and one of his eyes was half open. He was just completely out of it. I thought, he's probably having a health emergency. He should go to the nurse or something. The teacher asked, "Did he do something? Do you know anything?" I said, "No, I don't know anything, but he seemed pretty out of it when he got here." She said, oh no, okay, I'm gonna call the nurse. Don't let him go anywhere. Then she ran to the front of the class. I thought, where the heck is he going to go? He's unconscious. So she called the nurse and Seth actually moved a little. I tapped him on the shoulder and he kind of responded. He didn't say anything, but his arm batted me away a little. At least he had a pulse, which was good. About 5 minutes later, security came down with the nurse. They evaluated him, tried to get him to stand up, but he wouldn't move. I thought, dude, what's going on right now? Then they jumped on the phone and called an ambulance, which was honestly the right call. They should have done that sooner, in my opinion. Minutes count in situations like this. 5 minutes later, an ambulance pulled up. Luckily, our school was close to a hospital, so they were quick. They came in with a stretcher, checked his vitals, and managed to get him responsive. Once they got him on the stretcher, he was kind of moving around and his eyes were open, but he wasn't saying anything. As they were about to wheel him out of the classroom, I heard one of the paramedics say, "Hey buddy, can you hear me? Can you hear me, Seth?" Seth actually looked at him and the paramedic asked, "Did you take anything? You won't get in trouble, we just need to know." Seth, barely able to speak, used every ounce of energy to get the word out. He looked at the paramedic and said, "Pill." The paramedic repeated, "Pill? You took a pill?" Then Seth just went back to sleep. They wheeled him out quickly and took him to the hospital. The teacher tried to get back to teaching, but no one could pay attention after that. We were all freaked out and just thinking, what the heck just happened? It gets better. 2 hours later, it was lunchtime. I had an early lunch that day, around 10 a.m., so I was in the cafeteria. My phone buzzed, and I pulled it out to see a Facebook message from Seth. I didn't even have him added on Facebook, so he must have looked me up. I opened it, and it was a photo of him on a hospital bed with machines hooked up to him, an IV, the little pulse thing on his finger, EKG stickers, all of it. He had a caption that said, "I messed up, took a perk before school, bro." Keep in mind, it was 7:30 in the morning. Who wakes up at 6 a.m. and goes, what should I eat for breakfast? A Pop-Tart? Cereal? Fruity Pebbles? Pancakes? Eggs? Nah, I think I'll take a Percocet. Just insane to me. I don't understand. So I just replied, "Bro, I'm glad you're okay." He explained that he had been taking pills earlier that night and hadn't slept much. The final pill, right before school, just pushed him over the edge. It was serious stuff. I told him, "Dude, you shouldn't be doing that. You're way too young." He replied, "Okay, Mr. Rogers." He called me Mr. Rogers just because I told him to stop doing pills. I don't care. If I'm Mr. Rogers, then I'm Mr. Rogers. You guys can call me that. But seriously, don't do pills. It's extremely dangerous, especially with fentanyl going around these days. Just don't. In the end, Seth ended up being okay. I mean, he technically overdosed, which is not okay at all, but he didn't suffer severe damage to his organs or die. He didn't go into a coma or anything like that. He came out of it as well as you could in that situation. He did get kicked out of school though, obviously. The craziest thing about this whole situation is that this wasn't the first time something like this had happened at our school. 2 other kids had similar incidents, though the pills were different, and their behavior was different too. It was a much more chaotic situation, but this was still really serious. 2 years after he got kicked out of school, in 2017, he went to jail at 18. He got arrested on possession charges and some other stuff. He got out a couple of years later, and now he's back in jail for the same stuff. So, yeah, moral of the story is, don't be like Seth, and also, don't be like me. Keep your grades up. If not, your school might want to put you into a class where they think you need extra help, and you could end up surrounded by people like Seth, not the best crowd to be around. So yeah, steer clear of everything you hear in this story time. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed the story time. If you did, please leave a like on the video. I'd really appreciate it. Feel free to leave your story times in the comments down below and subscribe if you're new. I'll see you all later. Peace. Yo, what's good guys? It's Austin here, or Luna. So, today's story time is a pretty funny one and just all around ridiculous. Judging by the title, you probably have some assumptions, but there are definitely a lot of twists and turns in this one. I hope you enjoy it. Leave a like on the video if you do, and let's just jump into it. So, today's story time all starts off as a regular day in 2016. Now, in 2016, specifically on the internet, I had a pretty small group of friends. I had like 5 key friends that I spoke to. There was this one girl in the friend group. We'll just call her Alexis. Alexis was a friend of a friend, and that's how I met her. We met online playing some CSGO. One of my friends in our group kind of had a crush on her, and he was trying to make a move, I guess you could say, and date her, but she wasn't really interested from what I heard. It was kind of awkward in that regard, but other than that, we had a pretty tight group. Now, we were all pretty young, so all of us pretty much still lived with our parents, including Alexis. She was actually the oldest in the group, 2 years older than I was, and she was going to college but still lived at her mum's house with her family. The thing about Alexis is that she shared a bedroom with her brother. So constantly, we'd be on Skype or Discord, and she would always have her camera on, and we'd all have our cameras on. Her brother would always come into the room and sit down next to her and talk to us and stuff. So, one day in 2016, we were on Skype or Discord. I'm not sure if we had switched to Discord at this point yet, but we were all on some platform with all of our cameras on, having a regular call like always. I was playing some Call of Duty, and I had my camera on me, like facecam style. Alexis had hers on. She was chilling, reading something on her iPad. The rest of my friends in that call also had their cameras on, and we were just having a great time. About 30 minutes into our call, Alexis was like, "Hey, I'm gonna go take a shower. I'll be right back." And she walked out of the room. Now, immediately, my weirdo friend, the one that had a crush on her, was like, "Dude, she left her camera on. Should we tell her? What if she comes back getting dressed or something?" I was like, first of all, why are you even thinking about that? Second of all, I'll text her. So, I texted her and said, "Hey, you left your camera on. Just letting you know, in case you come back from the shower and you're not wearing clothes. Your camera's still on." She didn't respond, and I thought, okay, she's probably already in the shower or something. But then I thought, wait a minute, she lives with her family. She's not going to come back into the room undressed. She's not going to walk through the hallway like that. She lives with her family. So she probably brought her clothes into the bathroom and would change there before coming back. My friend was just overthinking it, essentially. I told him, "Bro, you're tripping. She's not going to come back naked on camera. She's not dumb." Now, fast forward like 30 minutes later, she's still not back, and we're all still in the call, playing games. My friend Jason suddenly goes, "Yo, Austin." I was like, "What's up?" He goes, "Would you rather be born without any legs, so you have to be in a wheelchair for the rest of your life, or get a hand job from a leprechaun right now?" I was like, "Bro, what the heck are you talking about?" This is the type of stuff my friends in 2016 would talk about. I'm not kidding. I was like, "What are you even talking about? We're chilling here playing COD and you randomly think of that?" He's like, "Just answer the question." I was like, "Neither." He goes, "Neither is not an option. Leprechaun handjob or no legs." I was like, "Neither." And then, out of nowhere, our other friend chimes in, "Yo, someone's in Alexis's room." I look over at her camera and it's her brother. He's standing there in the middle of the room organizing a drawer or something, just doing something around the room. The problem is, Alexis's brother didn't know she was on Skype or Discord with us and that the camera was on. He's just doing his thing, unaware we're watching. Yeah. We're kind of finding it funny, watching him as he has no idea we're there. We're all yelling his name. His name was Austin too, like mine. We're like, "Austin, Austin, look over here. We're on the camera, look." But he can't hear us. Her headset was down on the ground. Guess it wasn't loud enough or something. Nothing prepared me for what happened next. After he gets done folding clothes or organizing the dresser, whatever he was doing, he stands up in the middle of the room for a second. He looks out the door like he's making sure no one is coming, but then he doesn't even close the door. He just stands in front of the camera and proceeds to start undressing, getting completely naked. One friend was like, "Oh dude, what the heck?" I was like, "God damn it, I don't want to see this." So I looked away and my friend, the one with the crush on Alexis, was like, "Oh man, this was not what I wanted to see." I was like, "Well, what do you mean wanted to see? You wanted to see Alexis? You weirdo." He goes, "It'd be better than this. I don't want to see her brother's junk." I was like, "Oh my god." So I just left the call. I just left and kept playing COD alone, trying to get that image out of my mind. About 20 minutes later, Alexis messages me on my phone. "Hey, where did you guys go? The call's gone." I was like, "Call me." So, next thing I know, she's FaceTiming me. I answer, prop the phone up on my desk, and she's like, "What's going on? Where'd everyone go?" I was like, "Did you see my text?" She's like, "Yeah, you said I left my camera on, but it doesn't matter. I'm not going to come back naked. I change in the bathroom." I was like, "Yeah, I figured, but somebody else doesn't." She goes, "What?" I was like, "Well, I was just playing some COD, and next thing I know, your brother's walking around with his junk out." She goes, "Are you serious?" I was like, "He didn't even close the door. You're lucky you didn't see it." She goes, "Oh man, I've been telling him not to do that." I was like, "What do you mean you've been telling him not to do that? What does that mean?" She's like, "He always just changes with the door wide open. I'll walk by doing laundry and he's just changing." I was like, "Well, now he changes with your camera on, so next time, turn the camera off when you leave." She goes, "I will. My bad." So, like 5 minutes later, we all jump back in a group call and start laughing about it, cracking jokes. Then my one friend, the one with the crush on her, was like, "Yeah, that was gross." I was like, "Yeah, it was." Just then, Alexis's brother walks back into the camera frame, behind her, doing something. She turns around and goes, "Hey, why are you getting naked on camera?" He goes, I was naked on camera? She goes, yeah. He bends down, looks into the camera, and goes, yo, what up, guys? I was like, hey, man, and I waved at him. He leans into the mic and goes, yo, Austin, what did you think of my junk? I just put a thumbs down on the camera. He goes, don't lie, don't lie. I put the thumbs down again and made a face. He goes, what about my ass? I was like, get him out of the room, Alexis, please. Keep in mind, this dude was like 23 or 24 years old at the time, and we were all around 18. He was acting like a complete clown. But I can't lie, it was pretty hilarious the way he had full confidence and didn't feel even a bit of embarrassment. It couldn't be me. If I accidentally walked into a room and got undressed without realizing people were watching, I'd feel embarrassed for the rest of my life. I'd probably go into hiding in a cave somewhere. Anyway, after this, we never left our cameras on again. We all made a pact to never leave them on, because who knows what'll happen, right? Funny little twist to this story. A couple of years later, the friend that had a crush on Alexis ended up dating her. Even though she didn't like him back in 2016, I guess the dude just had a glow up or something. They started dating a couple of years later, and they're still together. I don't really talk to them much anymore because they're living life, living together now in a whole other state, and they don't get online much anymore. But they're happy. I'm happy for them. Shout out to them if they're watching this. But yeah, guys, moral of the story is, if you're leaving the room, turn the camera off, because you never know what might happen in your room when you're not there. Who knows? Anyway, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this funny little story time. If you did, please leave a like on the video, feel free to leave your story times in the comments down below, and subscribe if you're new. I'll see you all later. Peace. Yo, what's good, guys? It's Austin here, or Luna. Today's story time, judging by the title, is a pretty interesting one. It's definitely one of my favorite stories from the 2017 era when I was living in LA. Let me say, I have a lot of crazy story times from when I lived in my hometown in New York, but LA is a different beast. You see a lot of things there. Like literally on my first day ever moving to LA, I saw a homeless guy take a dump right in the middle of the street. I was driving by and there he was at the crosswalk, just doing his thing. I knew right then, on that first day, that my life was about to change. I was about to see things and experience things that would shape me as a human being. So, let's jump into one of those experiences. This story takes place about a month after I moved to LA. I haven't talked about it much, but the first apartment I ever rented there was a one-bedroom on Hollywood Boulevard, literally right in the chaos of Hollywood. My door opened right onto the Walk of Fame, where the stars are. I was super excited because, to me, that was the epitome of Hollywood. It felt like I was in the middle of all the action. I went from living in a small town to the strip of Hollywood, and I thought it'd be a big, awesome change. Well, it was definitely crazy. It had some good times, but also some bad ones, and this is one of those bad ones. So, it was about a month into living there. I was in my apartment one night at around 6 p.m. finishing up a YouTube video. I was rendering it, getting ready to upload, and I was on a call with some friends, playing some games and chilling. Just a typical night for me. I had my bedroom window cracked open, letting in the warm California air. Everything was good. I started getting hungry, so I did what any hungry person who can't cook does. I ordered Taco Bell through Uber Eats. It got there in about 10 minutes, which was super quick since I lived close by. When the food arrived, I walked downstairs to get it. I opened the door, grabbed the food from the delivery lady, and I noticed something. A homeless woman was sitting right outside my door on the sidewalk, right where the stars were. She looked at me in a really weird way. It wasn't a mean look, but not friendly either, just very neutral. I didn't think much of it. I figured it was just a homeless person sitting there, so I went back inside, back up to my apartment, and sat back down at my computer to finish what I was doing. The rest of the night was pretty normal. I stayed on my computer until about 2 or 3 a.m. when I started feeling tired. I shut everything down, laid down in my bed, and drifted off to sleep. Here's where I made a big mistake. I didn't lock my apartment door. I used to do this a lot back then, which was stupid. I was a teenager, newly living on my own, and I thought I was in a secure building. I figured there were 2 doors to get through before you got to the apartments and 24/7 security. I'd be fine, right? At least that's what I told myself. So I fell asleep with my apartment door unlocked, free for anyone to open. I slept for about 2 hours before I started having this weird dream. I was back in high school, sitting at my desk working on a paper. I was stuck on a problem, so I raised my hand for the teacher. She came over to help, whispering so she wouldn't disturb the other students. But then I started realizing something. In my dream, it felt like the whispering was real, like it was happening in real life. That thought alone woke me up immediately. I opened my eyes and saw a shadowy figure standing at the foot of my bed, whispering, "Are you awake?" I freaked out. I mean, full on freaked out. I jumped up, ran out of my room, and then ran out of my apartment in my boxers. down the hallway to the elevator, and all the way down to the security office in my underwear. And when I got down there, the guy working the night shift, his name was Teddy, looked up and saw me. He was like, "Yo, Austin, what's going on?" He could tell something was wrong. I was standing there in my boxers, out of breath, and I told him, "There's someone in my apartment. There's a random person in there. I couldn't see who they were. The room was pitch black, but I swear someone is in there." Teddy said, "Are you sure? I would have seen them. I've been here all night." I insisted, "No, man, I'm telling you, someone slipped by you. They're in my apartment. Call the cops." So, he called the police and they came over. They went up the elevator and when they came back down, they had a woman in handcuffs. I did a double take because I recognized her. It was the same homeless woman from earlier on the boulevard. After the cops escorted her out, one of them came up to me and started getting my side of the story. He asked me what had happened. After I explained, he said, "We spoke to her. She's definitely not in a good mental state. She has a lot going on. When we asked her why she was in your apartment, she said she didn't know and asked us for food. I don't think she's very lucid." I replied, "I get it." He asked, "Do you want to press charges?" And I said, "No, I just want her to get help." And he told me, "Luckily we have connections with shelters and resources so we can help with that." I said, "Good, that's all I want." I didn't want her to go to jail. I know some people might think, if someone broke into my house, they'd be going straight to prison. And I get that. But she wasn't well, and I don't think she wanted to hurt me. She didn't have any weapons. They searched her. I think she was just lost, not physically, but mentally. So I asked them to help her, and they took her to a shelter. The staff there stepped in from that point forward. After the cops left, I turned around to Teddy and said, "Yo, you're the security guard. How did she get past you? More importantly, how did she get to my door?" He turned the computer monitor around and showed me the security footage. This lady had walked in behind a delivery driver, a DoorDash or Uber Eats guy. The driver didn't say anything, just let her follow him into the elevator. They went up to my floor because the driver was delivering food to my neighbor, and after that she just walked right over to my door, opened it, and went in. You guys need to understand how crazy this really is. Out of all the hundreds of people in my building, she picked my door, the one guy who had seen her earlier in the day. The odds of that happening are insane. I really thought I was living in a simulation after that. The next day, the apartment staff emailed me to apologize for Teddy's terrible security job. I told him it was fine, but he needed to pay more attention to the monitors or at least look at the people walking in a little more closely. For about 2 weeks after this, my mom called me every day begging me to move back home. She was afraid I was going to get murdered because someone had snuck into my apartment in the dead of night. She also yelled at me about locking my doors every hour of every day. And I did. I learned my lesson. It made me realize that anyone could do anything and I needed to be more careful. That's really the moral of the story. Lock your doors, whether you're home or not, and try to live in a safe area if you can. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this story time. Feel free to leave your story times in the comments down below and subscribe if you're new. I'll see you guys all later. Peace. Yo, what's good guys? It's Austin here, or Luna. So, throughout these almost 10 years of YouTube storytime videos, I've told a lot of stories about ex-girlfriends of mine, some that are a little more on the interesting side, shall we say. And today, I've got one that falls right into that category. I've been waiting to tell this one because it's just such a wild ride, and I really think you guys will enjoy it. If you do, leave a like on the video, and let's jump right into it. So, today's story takes place back in 2017. It was actually the day after my 19th birthday. October 2017 to be exact. Things were going great for me. I was living in LA at the time, but I decided to head back to my hometown in New York to visit friends and celebrate my birthday with the people closest to me. I was single, just living life, and honestly, I had no complaints. YouTube was going great, my family was good, everything was chill, and I was just having a good time. For my birthday, I had a big party with friends and family. I rented an Airbnb, a nice little 3-bedroom house, and had some friends staying with me. The day after my birthday party, I guess I still had the party itch, and I was like, you know what? Let's have another party, an after birthday party, not even for me, just for fun. All my friends were down with it, so we started planning a little get together for that night. The birthday party we had the night before was at a Bar Bolsh restaurant, but for this one, we decided to host it at the Airbnb. So my friends and I went out, grabbed some cups, snacks, and refreshments, typical party stuff, and headed back to set everything up. I started hitting people up, texting some of the friends who came out the night before, basically just letting them know we were doing it again. Within a couple of hours, we had about 20 people show up. Not bad for last-minute planning. It was definitely a more laid-back vibe compared to the night before. We ended up with around 30 or 40 people at the Airbnb, which honestly was kind of packed for a small house party. Everything was going smoothly, people were having a good time, and we were all just vibing. But of course, you already know these stories don't always have a happy ending. Something crazy just had to happen. So, about halfway through the party, this girl shows up. I'd never seen her before in my life, so I was curious who she was. Turns out, she was a friend of my buddy Jason. When I asked Jason how he knew her, he said they'd been friends since middle school. They'd been close since they were kids, and they stayed friends all the way into adulthood. I trusted Jason, so I figured if he vouched for her, she had to be cool. So now Jason introduced me to her, and we'll just call her Olivia for privacy's sake. He was like, "Hey Austin, this is my friend Olivia," and I was like, "Hey Olivia, nice to meet you." She seemed friendly enough, and immediately we started hitting it off. We were talking for a solid 30 minutes, just getting to know each other, and it turned out we had a lot in common. She was really cool, super easy to talk to, and, not gonna lie, pretty cute too. My friends started to drift away to do their own thing, and it ended up just being me and Olivia hanging out. After a while, we decided to head out to the backyard where we had a little bonfire going. We sat by the fire and talked for another hour or so, just about anything and everything. I was really starting to like this girl. There were no red flags, no awkward moments, just good vibes. I thought, you know what? Maybe I want to get to know her better. So I asked for her number and she gave it to me. We kept talking all night. We were at that bonfire for probably 3 hours straight. Before I knew it, it was like 2 or 3 in the morning. Most people had left, the party was winding down, and we were both feeling pretty tired. That's when Olivia looked at me and said, "Hey, do you mind if I crash here? I think Jason already left and I don't feel like going home." I was like, "Yeah, sure, you can crash here." Then I asked her if she wanted to stay in the guest room or the living room, assuming she'd prefer the guest room. She smiled and said, "Can I stay in your room?" And I was like, "Oh, okay." In my head, I was like, "Whoa, things are moving quickly," but I was excited and a bit nervous too. So I said, "Yeah, that's okay." We both headed up to my room and things escalated from there. We were lying on the bed and before long, we started kissing. I'm not going to go into all the details, but you get the idea. Things were heating up. I reached over to my nightstand to grab a condom because, you know, safety first. I set it on the nightstand and told her, "I need to use the bathroom real quick, I'll be right back." She was cool with it, so I headed to the bathroom. I did my thing, washed my hands, and when I opened the door, I saw something that just caught me completely off guard. There was Olivia on my bed holding the condom, with her keys poking through it. She was literally trying to poke a hole in the condom with one of her keys. I was stunned. I was like, "Yo, what are you doing?" She jumped, dropping everything, and said, "Oh, you scared me." I was like, "What are you doing with that?" She was like, "Nothing, just trying to open it." But she wasn't trying to open it from the corner. She was stabbing it through the middle, which was so weird. I asked her why she was trying to open it like that, and she just stammered, "I don't know." I told her, "Tell me the truth and I won't get mad. Were you trying to put a hole in it?" She hesitated for what felt like an eternity, like a full 5 seconds, before saying, "No." I could tell she was lying. I was like, "Alright, tell me the truth." She finally admitted it. "Okay, yeah, I was trying to put a hole in it." I was just sitting there in disbelief. I felt betrayed. I asked her why she would do that and she didn't even have a real answer. She just said, "I don't know, it was stupid." I told her, "I think you should sleep in the guest room." She didn't fight me on it. She just got up and went to the guest room. The rest of the night I lay there in bed trying to wrap my head around what just happened. The next morning, I called up Jason to talk about what had happened, and he was just as shocked as I was. He apologized on her behalf and said he had no idea she would do something like that. He also told me something I didn't know. On the way to the party, he had told Olivia about my YouTube channel and how I was doing well for myself. That's when it all clicked. She knew I had money, and my best guess is she thought she could trap me or something. I don't like to make assumptions, but that's the only logical explanation I could come up with. Why else would she try to do that? Jason was furious. He said he felt betrayed too, and he ended up cutting ties with Olivia after that. He couldn't believe she would try to pull something like that on one of his best friends. Honestly, I was glad I caught her when I did, because who knows how it could have ended if I hadn't. Looking back, I'm just grateful that I trusted my instincts. The whole situation was just a mess, but in a way, it was also a blessing in disguise. It made me more careful about who I trust and who I let into my life. So yeah, that's the story of how my birthday weekend took a very unexpected turn. Moral of the story: always be careful who you trust and always use protection. You never know what someone's true intentions might be. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this story time. If you did, please leave a like on the video and feel free to leave your own story times in the comments down below. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you all later. Peace. Yo, what's good guys? It's Austin here, or Luna. So, today's story time is definitely a weird one that still makes me uncomfortable to even think about all these years later. But I'm gonna tell you guys about it anyway. I hope you enjoy it, and if you do, please leave a like on the video. Let's get into it, cause yeah, this one is a strange one. Today's story time all takes place back in 10th grade, one of my final years of high school. Things were going pretty well around this time. My YouTube was popping off, I had some good friends around me, and I was at that age where you're starting to feel more independent. My parents weren't really too on my back at this point. They kinda let me do what I wanted, which was nice. Well, not all the time obviously. I've told stories about times I couldn't just get away with anything, but for the most part, they were chill at this point, which was good. That being said, I was hanging out with my friends a lot. I had 4 main friends that I was always with. I had other friends too, but these 4 were like my best friends at the time, and we were always doing something together. So, life was good. This story all starts off as a regular day back in 10th grade. It was a Saturday. I woke up at noon. Very great sleep schedule, as you can tell, and I was just sitting in bed scrolling through Twitter, tweeting stupid memes and stuff. You know, just really using my time productively. And while I'm on Twitter, I get a text from one of my main 4 friends that I was just talking about. He was basically asking me, "Yo, you wanna hang out today? Trying to do something?" So I was like, "Yeah man, come through." My friend came over and it was just me and him hanging out at my house. We played some game, I forgot which one, and after a while we decided to go out and get some food. After that, we met up with our other 2 friends and soon enough, all 4 of us were hanging out together. We were just chilling at this restaurant, eating and talking. One of my homies mentioned that it was his girlfriend's birthday that day. I knew her, she was cool, and they were a great couple. So I told him, "Hey, say happy birthday for me." He was like, "Oh, actually, she's having a birthday party tonight with a bunch of her girlfriends and a bunch of people from our school. Y'all should come through. It's mainly gonna be girls, but they won't care if we're there. We're all chill." I was like, "Are you sure?" And he said, "Yeah, I already asked her. You're all good." So, me and my friends were basically gonna go to an all-girls party. Well, all girls plus us. We were kind of stoked about it. We didn't know how it was gonna go. It could either be the most fun party ever, or it could be incredibly awkward. It was up in the air, and we were excited to find out. Fast forward to later that night, we all head to this party. Things are going well, and it's actually way less awkward than I thought it would be. We were getting along with everyone, and the girls weren't weirded out by us being there since they knew us from school. Everything was good. Unfortunately, someone had to come along and mess it all up. About an hour and a half into the party, this one girl shows up with her boyfriend, so now there's one more guy and it's not someone I'm friends with, nor any of my friends. It's just this girl's boyfriend. Now, I don't usually judge people based on their looks. I think it's pretty messed up to do that. But this guy, when he walked in, he looked a little creepy. And when I say creepy, I mean he literally stared 3 girls up and down the moment he walked in, and none of them were his girlfriend. He was checking out his girlfriend's friends, just staring at their butts. It was creepy. I didn't like that at all, and my friends noticed it too, so I know it wasn't just me. Fast forward about an hour later, and sure enough, this guy is still being creepy. He's flirting with girls that aren't his girlfriend. He even came up to us at one point and said, "Yo, these girls are fucking 10s. Just weird shit like that, while his girlfriend was literally at the party. I remember after he said that, one of my friends looked at him and was like, "Yo, isn't your girlfriend here? You think she'd like you calling her friends 10s? And the guy was just like, "What, you gonna tell her?" We were like, "No, but maybe be careful." He just shrugged and walked away, yeah, we didn't like this guy at all. He was giving off bad vibes, and I hate the word vibes, but it's true. He just wasn't giving off any good vibes at all. Fast forward another 30 minutes and some shit went down that was completely unexpected. We're all downstairs enjoying the party. Me, my friend's girlfriend, we're all just hanging out. This guy, the creepy boyfriend, is nowhere to be found. I hadn't seen him in about 10 minutes, so I figured he was in the bathroom or something. All of a sudden, we hear a girl scream upstairs. She yells, "What the fuck are you doing up here?" I look up because it was a 2-floor house and you could see the banister from where the stairs lead up. I see this guy coming down the stairs, looking really guilty and really embarrassed, and there's this random girl from the party following him down. The girl following him is not his girlfriend, it's just some random girl from the party, and she's looking pissed. She escorts him down the stairs and brings him over to our group because my friend's girlfriend was with us, and she was the one throwing the party. This girl says, "Hey, I just caught this creep upstairs in your room looking through your dresser, specifically your underwear drawer." Me and all my friends looked at each other like, what the fuck? Keep in mind, my homie is dating the girl throwing the party, the girl whose room this dude was just going through. Naturally, my homie doesn't ask questions, he just starts swinging on this dude. And honestly, I always say violence isn't the answer, but I can't blame my friend for having a temper in this moment. I can't lie. If someone did that to my girl, I'd be a little upset too. So my friend starts swinging on him and a full-blown fist fight breaks out. Everyone starts freaking out. The dude's girlfriend comes out of nowhere and tries to break it up. Eventually, we all step in and break it up because none of us wanted a full-blown fight at this party. After we broke it up, of course, the dude's girlfriend starts freaking out, yelling at my friend, "Why are you fighting my boyfriend? Why the fuck are you swinging on him?" She's yelling at my friend and then starts yelling at my homie's girlfriend, the one whose birthday it was, and the one who was essentially the victim here. My homie's girlfriend just told her the truth. She was like, "Your boyfriend was going through my underwear drawer. My friend just caught him." And the girl was like, "What?" She believed her right away, and all her anger turned back toward her boyfriend. Pretty much everyone at this party was on the same page. This guy was a fucking weirdo. So we kicked him out of the party. We escorted his ass out and made him leave. His girlfriend dumped his ass right there on the spot and we never saw him again. After that, we just tried to go back to having a good time. We didn't want him ruining the whole night, and honestly, the rest of the party was great. My friend's girlfriend didn't let it get to her. Even though it was really weird and she had every right to be upset, she just kept it pushing. She was glad he was gone, and we all were. So guys, I think the moral of the story is don't be a fucking weirdo. If you're at a party, or anywhere really, don't go creeping through people's things, especially their underwear drawers. That's just really fucking weird. Everything this guy did was one big red flag. But yeah guys, I hope you enjoyed this story time. I definitely think it was an interesting one. If you did enjoy it, please leave a like on the video. I'd really appreciate it. Feel free to leave your story times in the comments down below and subscribe if you're new. I'll see you all later. Peace. Yo, what's good guys? It's Austin here, or Luna. So, today's story time is definitely pretty insane, in my opinion, and I hope you enjoy it. Leave a like on the video if you do, and let's get into it. Cause, yeah, it's an interesting one. So, today's story time all takes place the day after my 21st birthday. Yeah, I had just turned 21, and I was feeling pretty good, you know? Freshly 21 years old, it's kind of the age everyone looks forward to. Not really sure why. I guess if you want to get into bars and stuff with your friends, that's one thing. But for me, I wasn't really drinking at the time, or doing anything like that. So I was kind of just the same dude I was at 20, just with a different number next to my name. But yeah, it was the day after I turned 21. I had just had my birthday party the night before, so I had already celebrated. And I can't lie, your boy was a little hungover. I definitely drank a bit and partied with some friends, so I woke up feeling pretty shitty. Definitely not good at all. I was just kind of moping around the house. All my friends had left, my house was trashed, and I was exhausted. And then I get a phone call from one of my friends who didn't make it to the party the night before because he had work. I get a call from my friend Dylan. I answer it like, "What's up, dude?" And he's like, "Yo, how was the birthday party?" I told him it was pretty good, but that I felt like crap. He laughed, "Yeah, I bet." And then he said, "So, not sure if you're feeling up to it being hungover and all, but there's another party going on tonight for my friend's birthday, and I have a +1. I want to take you because I feel like you guys would all really get along." At first I was like, no way, I wasn't going to another party. I felt awful. But then I thought about it. Maybe I should be social. Maybe I shouldn't just sit inside all day feeling sorry for myself. So I told him, "You know what, let me think about it. Give me an hour and I'll get back to you." He said, "Yeah man, take your time. The party's not until 7:30. I said, "Okay, sounds good." 2 hours later, I decided I was going to go. I was feeling a little bit better at this point. I drank some water, laid down for a bit, slept for 30 minutes, and I felt a bit more like myself. By 7:30, I'd probably be fine, and I could just take it easy at the party. So fast forward to 7:30. Dylan came to my house and picked me up. He wasn't drinking, so he was the designated driver for me and anyone else who needed a ride home. We got to the party, and I didn't know anybody there. It was a birthday party for one of Dylan's friends, Jason, and everybody there had gone to Dylan's high school. I didn't go to Dylan's high school. We went to completely different schools. The only reason we were friends was because we had a mutual friend who introduced us. So at first it was a little awkward, but I quickly realized that Dylan was right. Everybody at this party was really cool and similar to me. Within 20 minutes of being there, Dylan introduced me to a few of his friends and I got along with all of them. We kind of formed a little group and it was pretty cool. The first hour or two of the party went great. No complaints there. Everything was good. Well, then things got a little weird. 2 hours into the party, I had to pee, so I went to the bathroom, did my business, and came back out. I was thirsty, and I hadn't had anything to drink yet. No alcohol, nothing. I just wanted some water, so I went over to this table in the living room with a bunch of drinks on it. There were bottles, soda, and 2 bowls. One looked like punch, it had fruit floating in it, and the other was just a clear liquid. I thought, okay, that looks like water. So I pointed to it and asked one of the people at the table, who I didn't know, "Hey, is that water?" He goes, "Yeah." So I grabbed the little scoop and poured some into a cup. I took a sip and immediately it tasted funny. It didn't taste like water. It tasted like 50% water and 50% something else. If I could compare it to anything, it tasted like cleaning supplies. You know that chemical smell? That's what it tasted like. I thought, what the hell? At first, I figured it was just the bowl. Maybe it had some residue from the dishwasher or something. But the more I drank, the more I convinced myself I was overthinking it. So, I kept sipping it. 30 minutes later, I started to feel a little weird. My stomach was feeling off and I was talking to Dylan and his friends, but I just felt on the verge of puking. I looked visibly sick, pale, and not well. Dylan noticed and was like, "Yo, are you good? You've been staring into space for 5 minutes and you look sick." I told him, "Yeah, I don't feel good." He asked if I'd had anything to drink and I said, "No, nothing." He said, "Alright, you're probably just still hungover. Stay away from the alcohol and you'll be fine." I thought, yeah, he's probably right. I tried to snap out of it, but every 10 minutes I just felt worse and worse until it got to the point where I had to throw up. I ran to the bathroom, threw up, and afterward I felt even more dehydrated. So I went back and drank that water again, which once again tasted really weird, like cleaning supplies. After 2 sips, I dumped it out and went back to my friends. I asked Dylan, "Do you know if the guy who lives here has any water bottles or anything? The water in the living room tastes funny." He asked if I was sure it was water, and I said, "I don't know, man. Taste it yourself. It tastes like they mixed it with Windex or something." He was like, "Are you serious?" I said, "Yeah, go taste it if you don't believe me." Dylan went over and took a sip. "Oh yeah, what the fuck, it does taste weird." Then someone else nearby said, "Yo, I thought the same thing. It tastes weird as hell." More people started speaking up about it, and I was like, okay, so it's not just me. There's something in that water that's not right. Dylan went over to Jason, the guy hosting the party, and asked, "Did you put that water out? Why does it taste so funny?" Jason looked confused and said, "I didn't put any water out. What are you talking about?" He walked over, saw the bowl of clear liquid, and said, "I swear I didn't put this out." Now everyone was starting to freak out. There was this mystery liquid, and nobody knew who put it out. Pretty much everyone had drunk it thinking it was water. So yeah, things got pretty tense for a bit. After 10 minutes of trying to figure it out, we got nowhere. Nobody knew anything, and we just dumped the bowl out. Jason put out some real water, and we went back to the party. 15 minutes later, I got hit with something that was not normal. I started feeling really weird, like super faded, not in control of my body. I felt high, but not in a good way. And then, I started seeing things. I looked down at the floor and there was this old school tile pattern. I swear the little angels painted on the tiles were moving, stepping forward and backward over and over. I looked up at Dylan and he asked, "Yo, are you okay?" I told him, "Dude, I think whatever was in that water was a drug. I'm seeing shit." He looked concerned and asked what I was seeing. I explained and he said, "Bro, you're probably just dehydrated. Let's get some more water in you." He gave me some real water, but it didn't help. I kept feeling worse, this weird sense of doom, and everything I looked at was moving. I was having a full-blown panic attack. I was just sitting in the corner of the living room, freaking out, trying to talk myself out of it. But it's hard to talk yourself out of it when you're tripping and everything you look at moves. I couldn't tell what was real. Then, this girl came and sat down next to me. She didn't look too good either. I asked if she was okay and she said, "No, not really. I don't feel good at all." I told her I felt the same. She said, "I only had 2 beers. This isn't normal." I asked if she'd drunk the water from the table and she said, "Yeah." That pretty much confirmed it. Whatever was in that water had something in it that wasn't right. I started going around asking people if they drank it and if they felt okay. Almost everyone said the same thing. They felt weird. The whole party within an hour was either sick, tripping, or just not feeling right. It was pretty much chaos. Some people were puking, some were freaking out, and a few were even enjoying it. Clearly someone had dosed the water and it was terrifying. Jason tried to figure out who did it. He started calling people who'd already left, but nobody had any answers. Obviously, whoever did it wasn't going to fess up. And I tried to find the guy who told me it was water, but I didn't know his name. All I knew was he had short brown hair, was about 6 feet tall, didn't wear glasses, and had on a flannel and black skinny jeans. That could have been half the party. After all of that, the rest of the party was just a mess. I ended up leaving about an hour later. Dylan drove me home and I crashed in my bed. Luckily, I fell asleep quickly. I was so exhausted, and by then, it was wearing off a bit. The next day, I felt completely fine, but we never found out who put that water out. Jason never threw another party after that. He didn't want to take the risk, and I don't blame him. So, yeah, the moral of the story. If you drink or ingest something and you end up tripping or feeling not right, just go to the hospital. No ifs, ands, or buts. Just go. I'm lucky that whatever was in that liquid wasn't worse, because people could have gotten seriously hurt. That's the story of how my water got laced, and I ended up tripping balls and feeling absolutely awful. I hope you guys enjoyed the story time. If you did, please leave a like on the video. I'd really appreciate it. Feel free to leave your story times in the comments down below and subscribe if you're new. I'll see you all later. Peace. Yo, what's good guys? It's Austin here, or Luna. So today's story time is definitely one of those ones that I look back on and think, wow, I'm a pretty odd guy, but I'm glad I wasn't this odd. Yeah, this one's wild and I'm going to tell you all about it. Before I get into it, excuse the rasp in my voice if you hear it. I'm definitely a little bit sick right now. I don't know how many times a year I get sick, but it's probably like 30. I swear I have the immune system of a potato. If potatoes even have immune systems. But yeah, if I sound like crap, that's why. Now, let's get into the story time. So, today's story takes place back in 2015 when I was in high school. I had a couple of classes that I actually looked forward to. Obviously math, history, and stuff like that weren't my favorite, but I had this business class that I kind of liked. It was basically just an excuse to use the computer for an hour, and all we had to do was make PowerPoints. I could finish those really fast, so I ended up with most of the class to do whatever I wanted on the computer. Usually I just go to business class, finish the assignment in like 10 minutes, and then hop on YouTube with a VPN to watch videos for the rest of the period. It was honestly my favorite class. Here's the thing, you could download a VPN onto the school computers and it would unlock every website. So people would go on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, whatever. There was this one kid in my class, we'll call him Jack. Jack sat right next to me in business class. He was a super quiet kid. I probably spoke 2 words to him the entire year. When I did speak to him, it was always 1-word responses, super short. So yeah, he wasn't very talkative, but I didn't think much of it. I'm not the most talkative guy myself, so I figured it was normal. One day in business class, I was sitting there, just watching a video on YouTube after finishing my assignment, enjoying my day. I looked over at Jack and I noticed he wasn't doing the assignment either. He was also done. He was on YouTube too, watching some Minecraft YouTuber. I don't remember who it was, probably a smaller channel with like 10k or 20k subs, but I noticed something else that was a little odd. Up in the top left corner of his browser, he had another tab open. It had a little yellow logo with a PH on it, and let's just say it rhymed with Cornhub. I had to do a double take because I thought, no way this guy's on that website in the middle of class. But yeah, after looking again, I realized he was. So I tapped him on the shoulder. I had to tell him he'd get into serious trouble if he got caught. He looked at me and I was like, yo, what are you doing, man? He immediately moved his mouse to close the tab, but instead of clicking the X, he clicked on the tab by accident, and it opened up the whole page right there in front of me. And there were people around us too. Luckily they didn't see, but he freaked out and closed it immediately. I was like, bro, what are you doing? There are so many people around us. If the teacher sees that, you're getting expelled. Like, I get it. Everyone uses that website from time to time, but you can't be doing that in school. He was all, yeah, I know, man, I'm sorry. I was like, it's fine, just don't do it again. Now, I don't know what it is with my luck, but this isn't even the only time I've dealt with this kind of thing. I told a similar story not too long ago about someone doing almost the same thing in a different class. I just don't get it. Like, I understand being a young teenager, going through puberty, full of testosterone, I've been there. But bro, just wait until you're home from school. There's no need to be on that site in the middle of class, in front of people. If I hadn't stopped him, someone else would have definitely seen it and embarrassed the hell out of him. Anyway, after he closed the tab and apologized, I told him it was all good and just to wait until he was home next time. He agreed, and I thought that was the end of it. But nope, it got worse. You're probably wondering, Austin, how does it possibly get worse? Well, about 2 weeks later, we were back in business class. This time, the teacher had switched up our seats, so I wasn't sitting next to Jack anymore. Instead, he was next to my friend. We'll call him Kyle. I was sitting next to someone completely new. Halfway through class, I suddenly hear Kyle yell, Jack, what the fuck, dude? The entire class whipped around, staring at him. Jack's computer was just showing the desktop, so whatever Kyle saw, Jack must have closed it out in time. The teacher, of course, yells at Kyle, why would you say that? Because he swore loudly, and you're not supposed to do that in school. Kyle was like, nothing, never mind. But the teacher wasn't having it. She was like, no, please share it with us. If you're going to use that kind of language in front of everyone, let us know what's going on. At this point, I already knew what was happening. I figured Jack was back on that same website, and Kyle didn't want to say anything because it was super awkward. The teacher kept pushing, and Kyle finally gave in. He said, fine, Jack was on a website he's not supposed to be on, and it caught me off guard. The teacher looked at Jack and asked, what website? Jack goes, just Facebook. She wasn't buying it. The teacher had an admin computer, so she could see our browser history, not in real time, but she could look it up later. She went to her computer, checked Jack's history, and saw what website he'd been on. She freaked out. "Jack, are you serious?" He was like, "I know, I'm sorry." The whole class just burst into chaos. Everyone was trying to figure out what website it was. Only me, Kyle, Jack, and the teacher knew, and no one else did. The teacher didn't tell anyone, and we didn't either. We didn't want to embarrass Jack any more than he already was. But yeah, Jack ended up getting suspended for a week for that. Honestly, I think he got off pretty easy. I feel like most kids would have gotten in way more trouble. Jack was a good student otherwise, so I think they went easy on him. So yeah, that's the story of how I caught someone on the hub in class for the second time. Moral of the story, don't do that. Ever, under any circumstances. It's not worth it. Hope you guys enjoyed the story time. If you did, please leave a like. I'd really appreciate it. Feel free to leave your story times in the comments down below and subscribe if you're new. I'll see you all later. Peace. So before we start this video, I just want to say that this story time is exactly why you all should be following me outside of YouTube. Seriously, go down to the description, click on my Instagram, my Twitter, and whatever else you got and follow me there. Just kidding, but seriously, enjoy the video. Let's get into it. So, this story takes place back in 2018, and I never fully talked about it. I think I addressed it really quickly in a video when it happened, but I never told the entire story. And the other day, someone was like, "Dude, why haven't you told that story yet? That's one of the craziest stories of your career. It directly involves your YouTube channel." And they were right. So, I'm finally telling the full story of how my channel got accidentally deleted by YouTube itself. I hope you enjoy it, leave a like on the video if you do, and let's get into it. So, it's 2018. Things were going really well for me. YouTube was going great, my life was good, my family was good, everything was honestly just amazing. I had my own apartment in my hometown at the time. It was a 2-bedroom place, and I was living alone, which meant most nights I was just chilling, making YouTube videos, playing games, watching Netflix, the usual boring shit, right? One night in 2018, I was on the phone with my then girlfriend. I'm not with her anymore, but back then we were doing long distance, and we would talk on the phone almost every night until one of us fell asleep. This particular night, I was on the phone with her from around 2 a.m. to about 7 a.m., just laying in bed, drifting off. I had the shittiest sleep schedule imaginable, no surprises there. So it was like 6:30 or 7 a.m. and I was finally about to fall asleep when, out of nowhere, my phone vibrates like 4 times in a row. I was groggy as hell, so I thought, what the hell is this? Is someone spamming me? I opened my eyes, looked at my phone, and saw that I had 4 emails, all from YouTube. The first one said, "You've gotten a strike." The second one said, "You've gotten a strike." The third one said, "You've gotten a strike." And the fourth one said, "Your YouTube channel has been terminated for violating community guidelines." I don't think I've ever had a bigger oh shit moment in my entire life. It felt like my stomach just dropped out of my body. Now, for those who don't know, YouTube has a 3-strike system. If you break community guidelines, you get a strike. The first strike is basically a warning, like, hey, don't fuck up again. If you get a second strike, you lose the ability to upload for 2 weeks. And if you get a third strike, your channel gets deleted. Now, strikes are supposed to happen one at a time. You mess up, you get 1 strike. Then, if you mess up again, you get a second one. They're not supposed to all come at once, but somehow, in that 1 minute, I got 3 strikes and my channel was deleted. So I knew right away this was a glitch in YouTube's system. That's not how strikes are supposed to work. They don't just pile on all at once. I tried to stay calm. I thought, okay, don't panic. This has got to be a glitch. It'll be fine. I logged into my YouTube account and of course my channel wasn't there anymore, but it still let me know that I'd been terminated. So I went through the process to appeal it. I made a tweet about it too, but it was 7 a.m. so no one was awake to see it yet. I was sitting at my computer having a full-blown panic attack, but I thought, you know what? I haven't slept in almost 24 hours. I need to go to sleep. Hopefully when I wake up, this will all be fixed. I went to bed and woke up about 6 hours later, and when I checked my phone, there was an email from YouTube saying that they had denied my appeal. My channel was still deleted. I was like, dude, what the fuck is going on? Do they just hate me? I couldn't remember if they had replied to my tweet or not, but I think they might have said something like, according to our system, your appeal was rejected. It was no help at all. But then, out of nowhere, another YouTuber, someone I'm sure a lot of you probably know, H3A3, actually DM'd me. He saw my tweet about getting terminated and was like, hey, I saw your tweet. I'm gonna send it over to my rep at YouTube and see what they say. I was so relieved. I replied, thank you so much, I really appreciate it. Because at this point, nobody else was helping me. YouTube denied my appeal right away and no one seemed to be able to help. So H3H3 reaching out to his contact at YouTube was honestly a huge help. I remember I went to see a movie that night, but I was so anxious the whole time. I thought my YouTube career was over. My friends kept trying to reassure me, saying, "Don't worry, bro, you've got other stuff. You've got Twitch, you've got other platforms, you'll be fine." And yeah, I probably would have been, but still, it sucked. The channel I had spent half a decade building just got deleted for no reason. It was gone. No warning, no chance to defend myself. It was just gone, and that was hard to accept. After the movie, I went over to my friend's house, still anxious as hell, and stayed there for a bit. Eventually, I went home, checked my YouTube channel, still gone. Checked Twitter, nothing. Checked my DMs, nothing. I went to sleep that night just completely defeated. I thought, yep, there goes my YouTube channel. It's over. The next morning, I woke up around 8 or 9 a.m. I opened Twitter first, didn't even think to check my channel, which I probably should have. In my mentions, there was a tweet from a random subscriber that said, "Yo, your channel's back." I rushed over to YouTube, searched for my channel, and it came up, which was good. I clicked on it, but all the video thumbnails were grayed out. They were still loading. The videos themselves were still loading their data. I thought, okay, maybe it's back, maybe it's just taking time to load. And right after I saw this, I got a DM from H3H3. He said, "Hey, your channel's been reinstated. Congrats." I remember feeling so happy, so thankful. Shout out to H3H3 for literally saving my channel's life. I don't think I'd be here if he hadn't reached out to his contact for me. He also explained a little bit about why it happened. Essentially, the system did glitch out. You're not supposed to get 3 strikes at once. It's supposed to be gradual, giving you time to correct your behavior. But the YouTube system, the algorithm, whatever they use, the bot just thought my entire channel was clickbait. And, I mean, back in 2018, I was clickbaiting pretty hard. Harder than I do now, for sure. So, I get why the bot flagged my content, but it wasn't supposed to give me 3 strikes all at once and delete my channel. That was just a massive glitch. I know it was a glitch because since they reinstated my channel, I haven't received a single strike. It's been 6 years and not a single strike. I think it's partly because I've gotten better at not clickbaiting as hard, but also because YouTube's system has gotten a little better at recognizing what's actually clickbait versus what's just a catchy title. Nowadays, if the system thinks a video is spam or clickbait, it will just take the video down and give you 1 strike. But back then, the system malfunctioned and immediately gave me 3 strikes, deleting my channel without anyone double checking. Luckily, once they reviewed it, they realized I wasn't actually breaking the rules, and they gave me my channel back with no strikes at all. They even sent me a list of things to avoid so that the bot wouldn't think my content was spam or misleading. Stuff like what to put in my titles and thumbnails to avoid triggering the system. I followed that advice, and here I am 6 years later with a clean channel and no strikes. But yeah, that was definitely one of the scariest days of my life. It freaked me out so bad. But in the end, I want to thank all of you for sticking around, and a huge thank you to H3H3 for reaching out and helping me get my channel back. And I guess thanks to YouTube SEO too, for actually reviewing it with a human and giving me my channel back. Not sure if they would have if H3H3 didn't stick his neck out for me, but either way, I appreciate it. And that's the story of how my YouTube channel got deleted by accident and how I got it back a couple of days later. If you enjoyed the story, please leave a like on the video. It really helps me out. Feel free to leave your story times in the comments below, and if you're new, subscribe. I'll see you all later. Peace. Yo, what's good guys? It's Austin here, or Luna. Today's story time is a pretty wild one, and honestly, it's one that's hard to forget. I've told stories involving teachers before, but this one is definitely a bit different for reasons you'll hear about soon. It's got some unexpected twists, and it's one of those experiences that sticks with you for a while. So, I hope you enjoy it. Leave a like on the video if you do, and let's jump right into it. So, today's story takes place back when I was in 9th grade. Yup, freshman year. A pretty interesting time actually. 9th grade was probably one of my favorite years of school, but not because of school itself. It was mainly because I had a solid group of friends back then, and we all got into some wild adventures. I miss those days because a lot of my friends have since moved away to different states, but at the time, we were having fun and causing a little bit of mischief here and there. Those were the good days. Now, in 9th grade, I had this study hall teacher. She didn't teach any specific subject, but she was just there to help us with our homework or any schoolwork we had during study hall. She was one of those teachers who seemed to know a little bit about everything, and I won't lie, she was actually pretty cool. She was always willing to help students out, and she had a really chill vibe, which made her pretty popular with the students. But there was one thing about her that really made her stand out. She was attractive. Now, usually when you think of teachers, you think of someone older, like in their 50s or 60s. But this teacher, she was in her late 20s, maybe early 30s, and she looked young compared to most of the other teachers at our school. Because of that, she was definitely the one teacher that all the guys in my grade were obsessed with. Every guy in the class would try to flirt with her, and she always had to shut them down. She definitely knew what was up and didn't let it slide. I always thought it was a bit cringy that so many people tried to hit on her, and I was definitely not one of those guys. I mean, it's a teacher. That's just weird, right? And before you all run to the comments and say, but Austin, didn't you once date a teacher? That's a different story. That was after I graduated, and I was an adult by then, so it's not the same, okay? Anyway, moving on. One day, I was in study hall and I was working on some math homework. It was a Friday afternoon and I was visibly struggling. I mean, I was totally lost and getting most of the problems wrong. My study hall teacher came over to me and could tell I was stressed, so she asked if I needed help. I said yes, of course, and she sat down next to me and walked me through the homework for about 15 minutes. She was super helpful, and honestly, I would have failed that homework without her. After she helped me, she asked if I had any plans for the weekend since it was Friday. I told her I didn't have any big plans, just maybe dinner with my family on Saturday night. She said, "Oh, if you're looking for a good place, there's this awesome restaurant 5 minutes from here. You should definitely check it out. It's really good." I thanked her for the suggestion, and later that night, I told my mom about it. We ended up looking it up online and it looked amazing, so we decided we'd go there for dinner the next day. Saturday night rolled around and I went with my family to the restaurant. It was me, my mom, my dad, my brothers, and some of my cousins. We had a big table and everything was going great. The food was incredible, easily a 10 out of 10. But then, out of nowhere, things got awkward. My teacher walked in through the front door. Now, our table had a clear view of the entrance, so we immediately made eye contact and I could tell she was surprised to see me. It was one of those moments where we both knew it was super awkward. But it got even stranger because, walking in right behind her, there was this kid, an 11th grader from my high school. He was actually my friend's older brother, and I knew him pretty well. At first I thought maybe they just happened to be walking in at the same time, but then the hostess sat them down together at a table that was only a few tables away from ours, and suddenly it clicked. They were there together, on a date. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. The teacher looked guilty as hell, and I immediately looked over at my mom. She's always been the one I go to when there's drama, so I told her, "Mom, that lady right there is my study hall teacher, and the kid she's with is an 11th grader from my school." My mom was just as surprised as I was and asked if I was sure they were on a date. I said, "I mean, it looks like it. I don't think she's tutoring him here at this fancy restaurant." My mom ended up telling the whole family, and suddenly, everyone at the table was looking over at them. It was so awkward because my teacher definitely noticed all of us staring at her, and she just kept looking over at us with this really uncomfortable expression. Thankfully, we were just about done with dinner, so we only had to sit there for about 10 more minutes before we could leave. But man, those 10 minutes felt like an eternity. Fast forward to Monday morning, I walked into study hall and I could already feel the awkwardness in the air. I sat down, and sure enough, my teacher came straight over to me before class even started. She sat down next to me and said, "Hey, I just want to talk to you about this weekend. I know you saw me at the restaurant and I want to clear up any misunderstandings. There was nothing inappropriate going on. He's just a family friend, so don't worry. It's not what you think." I just nodded and said, "Okay, I get it." She kept going, saying, "I didn't want to come over to your table and make things more awkward, but I just want you to know there's nothing weird happening. I'm not dating students." I said, "Okay, thanks for letting me know." And that was that. After that conversation, I felt kind of bad for assuming the worst. I went home and told my mom what my teacher had said, and my mom was like, "Yeah, I figured it was probably just a misunderstanding." I thought, okay, maybe I was just being immature. Maybe there really was nothing going on. Well, fast forward about 4 months later, and I walked into study hall one day, and my teacher was nowhere to be found. Everyone was asking where she was, but no one had an answer. We had a substitute teacher, and when we asked the sub, she didn't know either. It was like my teacher had just vanished. A couple of weeks went by, and she still wasn't back. At that point, we all knew something had happened, but no one knew what. One day, I got home from school, and I was bored, so I turned on the TV. It was on the local news channel, and right there on the screen was my teacher's mugshot. I couldn't believe it. The headline read something along the lines of, "Teacher arrested for inappropriate relationships with students." Plural, students. Apparently, she had been caught having inappropriate relationships with multiple students at my high school. Not just one. I was completely in shock. I felt so stupid for believing her and not saying anything to anyone. I mean, she had convinced me that it was all just a misunderstanding and I bought it. Even my friend's older brother, who was one of the students involved, had told his younger brother that they were just family friends. It was like everyone was in on this secret except for me. After the news broke, it spread around the school like wildfire. Everyone knew what had happened and it became the biggest topic of gossip for weeks. My teacher ended up getting fired, of course, and she spent some time in jail. It was just such a crazy situation, and looking back, I still can't believe it all unfolded the way it did. So, yeah, that's the story of how I found out my teacher was secretly dating students, and it's definitely one of the wildest things that happened during my high school years. The moral of the story? If you ever see something that looks suspicious, don't just brush it off. It's better to speak up, even if you're not sure. And obviously, don't do what my teacher did. Ever. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this story time. If you did, please leave a like on the video. I'd really appreciate it. Feel free to share your own stories in the comments down below, and don't forget to subscribe if you're new. I'll see you all later. Peace. Yo, what's good, guys? It's Austin here, or Luna. So today's story time is a very funny one, and it's one that I've been waiting to tell for a long time because it's just hilarious. The reason I waited to tell it and didn't tell it like a couple of days after it happened is because I wanted the person in this story to wait. You'll hear why. But anyway, today's story time is about the time that I smoked with my biggest hater. Yeah, dude, this is a funny one. I hope you enjoy it. Leave a like on the video if you do, and let's get into it. So, today's story time all takes place when I was 21 years old. Actually, like a week after I turned 21 to be specific. It was the beginning of November, and around this time, there was an event going on. Now, I don't want to say what event specifically, but it was basically a convention. Sometimes YouTubers and gamers would end up at these conventions, and it just looked interesting, so I went. I went with two friends of mine, and it was about 3.5 or 4 hours from where I lived, so we drove there together and spent the weekend there, got a hotel. The first day of the convention was completely normal, nothing out of the ordinary. I actually met a couple of YouTuber buddies of mine while I was there, but the second day of the convention, something really funny happened. I got to the convention center early in the day, right when the event started. I was there for about 3 or 4 hours. I got pretty tired, pretty bored quickly, so I decided, you know what, I'm gonna go back to my hotel. So I walked out of the convention center and started walking back to my hotel. Now, my hotel was like, I don't know, half a mile from the convention center, so you could just walk there. So yeah, that was the plan. I found one of my buddies in the convention center and was like, yo, I'm leaving. I'm gonna walk back to the hotel for a bit. I'll be back in like an hour, maybe 2. Are you staying here or coming with me? He's like, oh, I'm gonna stay here. I'm gonna try and find Trey. Trey was our other friend that came with us to the convention. I went with 2 buddies, my friend Alex and my friend Trey. Trey was somewhere in the convention center or outside of it, I didn't know. And I was like, okay, cool. Well, let me know if you guys are coming back or not. Otherwise, I'll see you in a couple of hours back here. He's like, okay, sounds good, man. So I leave the convention center, right? And I'm literally about to cross the street and walk onto the sidewalk and start going back to my hotel when I see something out of the corner of my eye. I look to my right and I see Trey, my friend from my city, the one that I went to this event with, and he's smoking a blunt with some random dude. So I walk over because I'm curious and I'm like, yo, Trey. He's like, Austin, what's good? And he like daps me up. I sit down next to this random guy just in between him and Trey, and the random guy looks over at me. He looks to be like probably, I don't know, 2 years older than me, not much older. He daps me up and is like, yo, what's up, man? My name's Robert. And I was like, what's up, man? I'm Austin. He's like, cool, man, cool. What brings you to the convention? I'm like, not much, man. I'm just kind of a nerd, like gaming, you know, a whole bunch of stuff like that. So this seemed like the place to be. And he's like, yeah, man, this convention attracts a lot of people like that. A lot of gamers, a lot of anime watchers, fiction readers, just a whole bunch of stuff like that. And I was like, yeah. And then he's like, honestly, man, it's kind of annoying how many content creators come here. Like a lot of YouTubers and Twitch streamers end up here and they kind of just clog the place up with their fans. Their fans show up and mob them and it's hard to move around. And I was like, yeah, man, I can see why that would be annoying. Like if you're trying to get somewhere and there's a bunch of people in the way, that's really annoying. And he's like, yeah, last year I came to this event and a bunch of YouTubers and streamers showed up that I did not like at all. And I was like, really? What are their names? He starts naming some of them, and it's funny because some of them are my friends. Now, I didn't say anything. I didn't want to be like, oh, you're making fun of my friends, because it's their content creation stuff. Like, it's one thing if you're talking directly about my friend, like calling my friend a bad person, but he was just kind of hating on their content, and you know, that's kind of valid. If you don't like someone's content, your opinion is your opinion. You know what I mean? It's the same way that some people don't like mine, so I didn't want to call him a bad person or something for not liking my friend's videos. So I didn't say anything, right? But I did want to know one thing. I wanted to know if he knew who I was. So I started doing some digging, right? I asked him, hey man, who are some of your least favorite content creators? And I shit you not, the second person he names is me. And immediately, me and my friend look at each other and our faces just light up. The dude Robert looks back at me and is like, do you know him? And I was like, yeah, I know of his content. I've seen him on YouTube. I was like, what do you not like about him? He's like, dude, he's just ridiculous, right? Like, no man can have that many stories. And I was like, yeah, dude, he has a lot of stories. And he's like, they're all fake, you know that, right? And I'm like, oh, really? How do you know? And he's like, they just gotta be, bro. They can't be true. There's so many of them. And I was like, yeah, there is a lot. And he's like, honestly, dude, go through his channel. I bet you can't find one real story. And my friend starts laughing, right? Because, like, it's just funny. He's just shitting on my videos right in front of me, and I'm not mad at all. I thought it was hilarious. This dude's just going off about me, right? And I keep egging it on. I'm like, yeah, he's kind of sucks. Like, I don't like his voice. He's kind of annoying. He sounds like he has a plug nose all the time, and he's all skinny. I'm just talking shit, right? I'm trying to egg this dude on to say other stuff because I'm just loving it. And he keeps going. He's like, dude, like, he's got this one story that I watched back in the day, and he talks about breaking into an abandoned building or something, and the cops chase him. Like, dude, that wasn't real. And I'm like, yeah, man, I don't know. And he's like, bro, and the worst part about him is the fans. His subscribers are just ridiculous. They're so toxic. So he started coming for you guys, right? Like, he wasn't even just coming at me, he was coming at y'all. So you guys should have beef with him too, okay? And I'm just trying not to laugh because this dude's just shitting all over my channel, my subs, like everything, right? And finally, he ends it off by being like, you know, man, I used to love this dude's videos. I used to watch Luna when I was like 15. He was the shit, but now it's just bad. And I was like, yeah, man, so you really think none of his stories are true at all? And he goes, honestly, man, I don't think one of them is true. Not one. And that's when I hit him with the reverse card. I was like, well, this story will be. And his face just immediately changes, right? Like, he looks like a deer in headlights and he's like, what? And I was like, Luna, nice to meet you. And I dab him up and he's like, dude, I knew your voice sounded familiar. I knew it. And he starts laughing out of embarrassment. He's like, dude, I'm sorry. Like, I'm sorry if you took offense to that. It's just my opinion. And I'm like, dude, you can have your opinion. If you think I'm full of shit and you don't like my content, so be it, man. I can't change your opinion. And he starts backpedaling. He's like, dude, honestly, I don't know what I was talking about. I'm just jealous, honestly. You get to tell stories for a living. That's awesome. And you just told me this is going to be a story. And it's a true story, so I think I had it all wrong. I think you're legit. And I was like, oh, really? He's like, yeah, man, my bad. He apologizes, and I'm like, dude, you don't have to apologize. You can stand on your opinion. I really don't mind. I'm a content creator. It comes with the territory. It's fine if you don't like me. He's like, nah, man, honestly, I was tripping. And he starts laughing, and I thought it was funny, right? My friend's laughing about it too. Just as he's about to say goodbye, he's like, well, man, honestly, I think I owe you something because I talked mad shit to your face, and I feel bad. And I'm like, it's all good, man. Don't worry about it. He's like, no, man, here. And he hands me the blunt they were smoking. Now, I hadn't smoked at this point in a long time, but I was like, you know what? For the sake of the story, I'm gonna take a hit. And I did. And I had the biggest panic attack ever afterward. So yeah, not only did I meet my biggest hater and hit a blunt with him, but I also had a panic attack after. So yeah, that's probably what I get for fucking with this dude. But honestly, like, all in all, I just can't believe he didn't recognize my voice. Like, I have a very distinct voice. I feel like if people don't recognize me for my face, it's almost always my voice. And the fact that I told him my name was Austin should have been a dead giveaway, but maybe he just didn't remember from back in the day. I don't know. Either way, it was so funny that he didn't know for the first 5 or 10 minutes, and then his face, I wish I had a photo of his face when I was like, I'm Luna, because he just shit himself. It was so funny. But yeah, guys, I guess the moral of the story is you never really know who you're talking to. I don't know. This is just a funny story. Definitely a funny little moment in my YouTube journey. And yeah, I waited to upload this just because I wanted him to wait. He talked all that shit. Now he's got to wait to be in the stories. Nah, I'm just fucking around. I honestly forgot for a long time, and then I remembered, and then I waited because I knew how funny it was, and I wanted to wait. So yeah, shout out to that dude. If you're watching this, Robert, how you doing, bro? Is this real enough for you? I hope you guys enjoyed this story time. Leave a like on the video if you did. Especially you, Robert, you better leave a like. And feel free to leave your story times in the comments down below. Yeah, guys, and subscribe if you're new. I'll see you later. Peace.